Welcome into Hoopsville, everybody. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Dave McHugh. Sorry for the delayed start there. Computer was a little hung up trying to get restarted from our work all day long. Usually we give it a little bit of a break, grab a bite to eat, and we did all that, and then it just didn't want to start back up. C'est la vie. If you got questions for us, you can email us, hoopsville@d3sports.com. You're going to join us on social media, pretty much everywhere, at D3Hoopsville, or on, the exception to that is Facebook. It's facebook.com/Hoopsville. We are simulcasting there along with YouTube, youtube.com/D3Hoopsville. Hopefully the camera keeps running. If it does not, we've got the plan ready to get to the next one. We'll hopefully keep it from dropping off on Facebook as it has in the past. Those who are behind the scenes of the software system that we have claim that it's try X, Y, and Z. Well, we've tried X, Y, and Z and it hasn't solved the problem. Anyway, welcome in. It is Monday, the 29th of January as we get ready to roll along. And we are into the final month of the season. A week from we talk those teams out of the end because it Monday on this day. Brackets will have been decided, selections have been decided officially a week from yesterday, Sunday, but we don't officially see them until today. So, or a month from today. So we are a month in, final month of the season, right here, right now. And so the guests today are going to be guests who are not necessarily ranked. They might be getting some attention, though I promise you on the men's side, they are not in the top 25 ballots. On the women's side, we'll see what the new one is, but they weren't last we checked. You can see them over our shoulder if you're watching us on our mainstream or if you're watching on any of the simulcasts. We'll talk to the Kean women's basketball about the NJAC and talk to Kean about what to expect from a three-way tie atop the NJAC. There's a lot to play for in that conference, and we'll get a good insight from them on the women's side. Then we'll go to St. Joseph up in Connecticut, talk women's basketball with the head coach there, Wendy Davis. You'll love to find out how she got the gig and where she was when she got the call. We'll also talk about the influence Jim Calhoun has had on the on the women's program there, and how they have certainly figured out how to play well, but the GNAC has gotten a little bit complicated. So we'll talk all about that. Then we'll switch gears, head out to the Northwest Conference and talk Whitworth men's basketball with Damion Jablonski, easy for me to say apparently today. They're on their way as we speak to Walla Walla, Washington to take on Whitman tomorrow in conference action. We'll talk to Coach about his Pirates and their run so far this season. Then we'll head down to the southern region and talk SAA men's basketball at Barry. This is a team that for a lot of good reasons disappeared off of many radars, but they have won 8 straight. They are on top of the SAA and maybe figuring it out what we all thought they had, but it's been complicated for them as well. Find out why Barry has seemingly struggled this season, but also figured it out. They may be one of those teams you don't want to see come March, despite their record. So that's all ahead here on the show. No top 25 breakdowns today. We're going to have them later in the week because, and I don't think I have a drum roll, unfortunately, on my sound effects, so we'll get to it in a bit. We have an announcement for this week per Hoopsville schedule. We have been telling everybody we would be on at 1 o'clock on Thursday for Hoopsville. We will not be on at 1 o'clock on Thursday for Hoopsville because we are shifting to Friday, and we will have a Hoopsville half marathon. Yes, thank you. Yep, half marathon. So this is the way we can get our marathon show in. If you've been around for a bit, you understand that we've had a little bit of trouble getting the marathon put together this season due to other work that I have picked up that happens to be most of the time on Thursday evenings. But we have talked to them about it. We've figured it out with the fam damly, as it were, and all of that jazz. So here's the deal. We will be talking for about 6 hours on Friday. Right now, aiming for an 11 o'clock start. If we really get kind of pushed, we may start as early as 10. This is Eastern time. We will go until about 5 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm looking at 6-hour conversations in Division 3. We're still working on guests, so I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. But one of the segments we've put together with the NABC is about coaches versus cancer and the sneakers effort, that suits and sneakers effort that goes on every year. Got a really good story or a really good angle on that. We'll be reaching out to some guests literally in the next 12 to 18 hours and get them booked. Maybe the committee chairs. We're still trying to figure that out with their schedules. It's a little bit complicated with their schedules. But that is coming up on Friday. So no show on Thursday. We'll put all our efforts into the Friday show starting about 11 a.m., maybe as early as 10 a.m. We'll have final details as we get our guests booked in, going till about 5 p.m. So not the full marathon. We have gone as many as 12 plus hours. We've gone 12, almost 14 hours before. We have gone 8, we've gone 10, etc. This will be a 6-hour show. That's why the half marathon. So that's coming up on Friday. That's how we can do our marathon efforts annually. I think this is our 9th or 10th effort, to be honest. It's one of those things I actually should have looked up before we got going here. Let's see. The 7th in 1920, so 20. We didn't do one in 2021, 22, 20, so 22, 23. No, 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24. So this will be our 10th. It looks our 10th marathon. So looking forward to that. So there you go. We'll certainly talk more about what else is going on in Division 3 at the end of the program. There it goes. It was just a matter of time, folks. It was just a matter of time. So bear with us here. We're gonna swap out the camera. Don't worry, you're not losing a feed. We're trying to save this from going bye-bye on Facebook, because it has done that in the past. So there we go. We got a new camera up, so let's see if we can get that in and get quickly onto it. We can almost be there. Hold on, we're almost there. We'll look at Facebook in a minute and see if it's gone sideways on us. We're back. So quickly, Mount St. Joseph women's basketball. Thank you very much. Sent in a jersey. We'll be getting this one posted along with some others that are working their way in, plus some others that we already have, and get this up on the wall as well. Thank you very much to Coach for bringing that in. Also sent in a Lauryn Hill Tip-Off Classic shirt. This means a lot to me. I appreciate that. We'll definitely rep the colors and shirts, etc., close to my size as well. So I appreciate that from Coach at Mount St. Joseph's and others. If you'd like to send us a jersey to hang up here, or maybe you just have some other kind of paraphernalia you'd love to see in our, we got shelves, right? You can put things up in a lot of these places, and we'll be reorganizing this section so you can see it better to display some more things that we get. Feel free to send them in. Just contact me and I'll get you the address for that, and we'll get right to it. Yep, Facebook dropped us. So we're literally going to try and go live here in the commercial break and get back up and running. I have no idea why that freezed camera freaks it out every time, but we'll get to it. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll get going with our guest. Kean women's basketball will join us to talk NJAC, the Region 4, and so much more. You listen to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. Back with more after this.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's NABC.com or NABC1927 on social media.
I used to never really talk, ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
If I lose, I'll respond with respect.
If I win, I'll back it up with humility.
If I fail, I'll rise up with honor. It's tough for us to put it all on the line.
Don't undo my hard work with poor sportsmanship.
Respect. It's the name of the game.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
Try that again. Oh, there we go. Mic's working. Welcome back to Hoops, everybody. We're trying to get us back up on Facebook. We did everything we were supposed to do, but now we don't see it triggering yet. So we'll work on that and see if we can get us back up on Facebook after a little bit of a delay here. If you got questions for us, you can always contact us. You know how to do so. The screen information now at the bottom of your screen. Of course, we're going to talk to some teams tonight that maybe aren't getting top 25 attention, but they could be in the conversation when it comes to March Madness because they're at the top of their conferences and having pretty good races so far this season. How that turns out, obviously a lot to be determined in the next month, but we'll start things off on the women's side, talk NJAC. Honestly, we haven't jumped into the NJAC quite a bit this year, mainly because on both the men's and women's sides, it's been a little bit helter-skelter, for lack of a better description, a little bit crazy. On the women's side right now, you've got a 3-way tie for first place. All teams at 10-3, between Kean, Stockton, and TCNJ. Oh, by the way, Ramapo and New Jersey City are a game back at 9-4. So it's a 5-team race right now for first place, with Rowan 3 games back of that tie for fourth. And Montclair State, surprisingly, even further back. William Patterson and Rutgers Newark and Rutgers Camden bringing up the rear. So 3-horse race in the lead spot, and right behind them come 2 more. What could this ever mean? Well, joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline is the head coach of one of those teams, at least one of those teams. We didn't get them all. That would be craziness. But joining us to talk about Kean is their head coach. Coach, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking the time. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us tonight. I'm so appreciative of all your coverage and you know, the competitiveness in the NJAC is just outstanding, and it's going to be so fun to talk about it tonight.
I think, by the way, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Very kind words of you. I think in all that build-up, I totally forgot to mention, her name's Mandy King, by the way. That's who's on the show with us here to talk about Kean and the Cougars in this craziness. Let's just talk about the craziness first, because that's what I kind of built myself into here. The NJAC, for a number of years, had been kind of the Montclair show, right? It was you guys all trying to catch Montclair State and Montclair State dominating and so on and so forth. And then we started to see a little bit of kink in the armor, maybe some of the feathers falling off the Redhawks. And you all took full advantage. And for the last couple of years, it has certainly not been anyone's particular conference. New Jersey City has certainly had some success. TCNJ is always been a formidable team. But now you got Stockton, yourself, Ramapo in the mix. And Montclair technically isn't in the mix. Don't get me wrong; they're close enough with a few games.
They're always in the mix,
right? They're with a few games left. This is not over, right?
That's right. You know, I think all of us who went through that, we know very well that I guess, you know, every conference is going to say that anybody can beat anybody on a given night, and it's absolutely the truth in the NJAC. And then this year, to have 5 teams. You know, you're either going to be like, you know, first or 6 or out.
Right.
And, I mean, it's absolutely incredible with, you know, only 5 games remaining. So we've talked about it for years, how difficult that it is. But this year it's really at a new level.
Yeah. That's the thing is not everybody makes this conference tournament. And so you've got 5 teams in the running just for first place at this point, all within a game, 3 and tied. And oh, by the way, then you get Rowan, who's certainly further back, but they're the only one basically holding on to that 6th spot.
That's right. And they've won 2 championships.
Right. And Montclair's lurking right behind them. So yeah, we're focused here at the top, but it's actually kind of mind-boggling just how complicated this could get in the next couple of weeks before the conference tournament. But how important is it to stay in that lead spot, to stay in first place and not fall into the kind of fight for whatever ends up being the results?
I think it's going to be a real focus on just how much better can you improve every day in practice, how much you can put your process first and not focus so much on the results. I know everybody says that, but you know, if you start focusing on the results that you need and fighting for first place, then I think that's when you really start to get tripped up. So what we try to do is, you know, just instead of focusing on what we want, like obviously we want to win a regular season championship, everybody does, but instead of what we want, you know, we focus on who we want to be and who we want to become through this process as we go through the grind of these last 5 games. So, you know, and it's been a lot easier with a young group. You know, we've had such an experienced group. We graduated 7 seniors last year. And so this year we're super young going into this battle of a really experienced league. And it's been such a joyful experience. But I think, you know, seeding isn't, I don't think it, you know, we've been on both sides of the seeding in this conference, and, you know, we've been, you know, a number 1 seed and have gotten upset. We've been a lower seed and have upset others. So I really don't think it matters where you fall. I just think you've got to fight to be playing your best every day. And, you know, and then, you know, hopefully you get to make that magical run to win an NJAC championship.
Obviously, the automatic bid comes with that, and getting into the tournament and trying to position yourself for a run for glory. But the banner with the NJAC title on it is certainly just as important. Are you concerned with the way this season's been going so far, that you're all going to be battling just to try and be in the right spot in the tournament? It's going to leave you exposed a little bit come that last week?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, you know, that's been the story here for, you know, the last, I guess ever since 1819, you know, so that's kind of been the story of the league. And we're trying so hard not to get caught up in that piece of it, understanding that, again, it's not going to be the matchups. I don't think the regular season champion in the last 3 years has won.
You might be right about that. Yeah.
So I
we're
think
so used to Montclair winning the regular season and then winning the title that I think that became the SOP.
That's exactly right. And, because and the records haven't always been as close as this. I mean, this is unbelievable. It's like, I can't even believe it when I go to look at it. I just turn it away from it and focus back on our next opponent. But so this year it's just been wild, but being in this league for the last 3 years, like it's not surprising that Ramapo is in the hunt. It's like everybody, you could see it coming, so, and Stockton has been a tough out, even, for the, they hadn't made the playoffs and they are so difficult to play against. I can't tell you how many times we've escaped the win, at the buzzer, with one play. They're really tough. So, and again, you've got teams with championship experience in Rowan and Montclair, and so there truly is nowhere to hide. And I'm just really fortunate that we have a group that is young and is focused in the moment and is just really loving playing basketball right now.
Looking at this season, I find fascinating is it seems like you guys had your moments and then figured things out so far. So you start the season with 2 losses to 2 good teams, Stevens and Oberlin. Oberlin, an injury has changed the look of their team. Had that injury not happened, that's a team that's absolutely had been rolling at one point. They're 12-7 though. They're still playing pretty good. They're just struggling with that injury, having lost, taken some losses now. But you then you then beat Wellesley and Brooklyn, then lost to NYU. By the way, everybody has. Yeah. And then you get into conference play and you lost to William Patterson. So you kind of get off to the wrong foot there. Win against Ramapo and Rutgers Newark, then lose to TCNJ, then win to New Jersey City. And I think, yes, we have another loss coming up out of conference here, but it felt like that New Jersey City win was kind of maybe the pivot. You had a couple of tough losses to start conference play. You were 2-2. You take on TCNJ. You're now 2-3. Felt like this is the moment. If you don't figure it out, you're going to start heading in the wrong direction. You get back to 500. It felt, at least from the outside, a 1-point win on the road against New Jersey City was a huge victory, even if it was December 9th.
Yeah, that absolutely was a turning point. And the girls did a really good job. Our non-conference game is built. I mean, a non-conference schedule is really built to expose us. And, it's easy for, I guess, a young group to lose confidence going through that, but they really bought into us challenging ourselves and trying to get ready for NJAC play. And so, and then, losing at Patterson, it's another tough place to play, but we got some experience for our young guys. And the TCNJ loss. I mean, TCNJ is, once again, one of the best teams in the conference. But, we had a team meeting the night before the Jersey City game where, it was we did this exercise where you named a hero, a highlight, and a hardship. And everybody, really shared the things that they had been through, and we got so close as a team. And I think that moment, it focused again on who we want to be instead of what we want, really focus on who you are as people instead of players. And then went into that super tough environment and just, came away with a win, and it injected fuel into our veins and had said, hey, you know what, we do belong here.
What were the 3? Hero, hardship, what was the first?
And highlight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's a good one.
It was fun.
File that in the filing cabinet. Unfortunately, you get a loss to Arcadia in mid-December, coming out of conference action before the holiday break. There's a lot going on there. We know exams and such. But
Plus,
did that fuel you guys?
Good. They are so good.
Yeah.
They run the Princeton offense better than, just about anybody we've seen. And, we walked out of there again and we had laid everything on the line. And, again, we didn't want to lose, but, it felt like we were getting better because of it. And, they were tough. So,
yeah. We should point out they're 17-2. Their 2 losses are DeSales.
Yeah. And then
DeSales has been
soul on an exhibition, so.
Right. And DeSales has been unmerciful with them, beating them by 20 plus in both occasions. But they've got some solid victories themselves. You then take the break for the holidays and you came back and you all rolled. You won, 7, I think, straight. against Drew, Rowan, and Stockton, Montclair State, William Patterson again, Newark, Ramapo. Really getting that momentum going. Then New Jersey City just said, thank you very much, take a seat. In the last game, beating you by 4 at your place just on Saturday. Is this an important period here? You had that nice winning streak. They've kind of punched you back a little bit, knocked you back into this tie. You've got big games with TCNJ and Rowan ahead. How do you manage this with the team on understanding, we took our lumps, but we got to get back on our feet?
Yeah, every time we play Jersey City, it's coming down to a 1-possession game. And, the way we've talked about it, it was really important to get the split with them, and we learned a lot from that experience on Saturday. I think the most difficult part about that game on Saturday is our point guard was injured in the first quarter. And that I don't know how many teams can adjust through that. So the way that my team, especially it's Brittany Graff, who is the absolute heart and soul of our program. And to lose her leadership with such a young team was really difficult. And my team did not flinch. I did. Inside, but our team's composure was absolutely off the charts. And they just, we've used the theme that we've got your back. Like you don't have to be perfect. You just have to cover for each other, that we really have got your back. And, my 5th-year center picks her up off the floor and carries her off, and everybody else locked in. And it was a fight for our lives. So we didn't get the result that we wanted, but I thought the relentlessness and the composure and the physicality against such a great team, a championship team, it was everything that we need and who we need to be going through this stretch. So, now, the adjustment now going into TCNJ, I think it's just helped us lock back in. And it didn't change how difficult it was going to be against TCNJ, whether we beat Jersey City or not, or whether we won 8 in a row or lost our last one. Like the task gets more and more difficult, especially the second trip through. And this group
and while the
is
teams come together,
it.
maybe it's added a little doubt. It's added the complex. It's added more complex to it. Because you have to adjust whether your point guard is back or not, or whatever the case. You have to adjust that. So that certainly adds a wrinkle to it. But to your point, sometimes you get wins out of losses. And if your team is figuring out how to coalesce as a unit without a major piece to it, even if it's temporary.
Yeah.
Even if it's 1-2 games, that's all you might need. That's significant.
Oh, it's been incredible. Like, in our practice tonight, they came in with such a joyful spirit. They're competitive. They just don't make any excuses. It's like they see who's next on our list, next on our schedule, and they just prepare themselves to go get another win. And they know how hard it's going to be. And I've never really seen anything like it, especially, they're really humble. They're really hungry. They come in ready to work. And again, it's like just next man up. And again, I know lots of people say that, but this group, they want to win for her, and it exposed us in a lot of ways. So, and we knew that, but now we've had to adjust around it. And I think we're going to be better because of it.
You talk about this youth, and it's interesting because when you look at the roster, you've got 3 seniors or graduate students. You've got 3 juniors, 3 sophomores, and then a good chunk of freshmen. But you've got a nice mix of upperclassmen in that. But when you jump to the stats, the youth jumps out. That's where you see it. You're being led by a freshman in Gigi Gamble at 18 points a game, essentially. She shoots 45% from the floor and 40% from deep, 86% from the free throw line. This is not a knock, but the only thing on here that doesn't jump out is her rebounding, but that's not something you maybe need from her. Brittany Graff, 15.4 points a game. Yeah, she's a senior. But then you've got Riley Aarons. We're right back to the freshman conversation here. Shad Bader, I know she's only played 12 games. She's contributing. Maya Edwards is contributing to this program. Bader, by the way, is a graduate student. And Edwards is a sophomore.
Yeah.
So you're getting this from everyone except maybe the junior class. It is that upperclassman, but they're obviously very comfortable for having an underclassman lead the way in scoring.
Oh, and it's, Gigi, she may be the best freshman in the country. I don't get a look on everybody else, but I know I've never seen anything like her, and she is the most humble kid, with numbers like that. And she's super, super unselfish. It's not only her ability to score, but it's her playmaking ability is just jaw dropping. And, she just, we absolutely have everybody loves her so much, and we just say it's Gigi's world and we're just living in it. She barely
perfect.
It's been incredible. I think she's such a kind and caring person, and she's absolute magic with the basketball. And she's, our point production has been unbelievable, and that's because of her playmaking ability and how much that attention that she draws. She's just been incredible, and we love being around her, and it's just our chemistry has been off the charts. So, and then you have the heart and soul of Brittany Graff that, again, she's been the motor behind everything, and it's been hard. It was adjustments. She had 7 seniors before, and now she's leading a new program, and it's almost like we said at the beginning of the year we really wanted to prove it that Kean basketball was here to stay, and it wasn't about proving people wrong. It was about proving ourselves right. And
that you could be there as a program, right?
That's exactly right. And so the consistency has been there, not only on the court but in the classroom. We were absolutely incredible in the classroom. I think over almost a 3.5 as a team, with 2 4.0s and 3 kids with 3.95s and 10 guys with over a 3.6. So the culture and the chemistry continued, and we knew we had to work at it. It was something that, you couldn't carry over. It was something that we had to continue to build. But, Gigi and Brett have been, tremendous in that backcourt. And then, Gigi's been rookie of the year, rookie of the week 8 times. But I think her biggest competition has been Riley. If it weren't, Riley got it one week, but if it weren't for Gigi, Riley would be up for, rookie of the year. So it's been pretty special. And then Shad Badir coming back as a 5th-year senior.
Mandy, her return has been huge in this, because she went out either during the NYU game or after the NYU game. You did not have her until you got back into the gut of it. In January, she averages a double-double, or I'm calling it a double-double. It's 8.9 points, but I know she scores more than that. Plus 11.5 rebounds, 12 rebounds a game. She's important for this inside-outside to work.
She is. She sprained her ankle before the Patterson game, and we lost her for that entire stretch while she was out. And she comes back. She had come back in the best shape of her life. And it was heartbreaking when she went down. But once again, we got your back, and the kids did everything they could to go on this win streak. And then we got her back. And it was unbelievable. I think it was 24 rebounds against Ramapo. It's insane. Absolutely insane. So
was there anybody else on the floor?
I don't know.
That is an insane number.
So, her leadership, her wisdom, her steadiness, it's just been another voice that, lets us know when things go wrong, things are going to be okay. And, if we just continue to try to play Kean basketball and we're tough and we're disciplined and together, then good things are going to happen for us. So, and then I think again, and Riley's been unbelievable. Such a great stretch for, again, 2 freshmen that I think that have been, they've continued the tradition that we built here at Kean and built it on top of some great players that we lost.
Here's the challenge. You've got 5 games left of the regular season. 4 of them are teams in a playoff slot. The 5th, Montclair State. In other words, this is not going to be an easy finish. You've put all the easy, quote unquote, behind you. There were 2 Rutgers are behind you. Others are behind you. You start off on the road at TCNJ and then at Rowan. Before returning home, you do have Rutgers Camden and Montclair State and then Stockton. So I misspoke on Rutgers Camden. That was the 4th I was thinking of. But still, Montclair State's going to be fighting to try and get into the playoffs too. They're not going to roll over, and we all know how Coach is with the Red Hawks, whether they're, actually a wounded Red Hawks team is probably more dangerous with Karen Harvey than one flying high. Listen, I know it's game by game. I know it's game by game. I know coaches talk game by game, and I know teams think game by game. I'm a former student athlete. I know we didn't think further ahead than who we had next, even if the big behemoth was sitting on the other side of it. But you also have to think about the bigger picture. You do have to think about the conference race and what this can mean and all that. So how do you prepare? How do you get the team focused? What's the conversation in the locker room?
Continuing to focus on the things that we can control. Like we have to improve our defensive rebounding and then our defense, first shot defense has been good. It's been second chances that have really hurt us this year. So we've tried to put the focus on the things that we absolutely can control, if we can be disciplined in our approach to that, then we're gonna make the improvements we need game by game, and then the second thing is like execution wise. I mean, everybody knows what everybody's running at this point. So it's not just about like, can you, add wrinkles and make the reads. It's also the play after the play. Like, can you go out and make that play after the play on every single possession? So we've put really a focus on those two things, and then still just, this team has they come in, they're so loose, like our walkthroughs, it's, they're authentically themselves. They love, care, and accept one another. And it's like, we've done a ton of team building with, contests and, fire pits and everything you can imagine we've done with this group. And it's like, just continue to do that and be really just focused on the moment, talk a lot about it's like, you have one play in one life, so lock in the moment and you got one chance to do this. Like, let's make sure, it's the best we can possibly be. And we're either going to be good enough or we're not, and so it's, I think, just trying not to lose that joy as we're trying to up our level of play is going to be really, really important.
Certainly makes sense to me, to say the least. I think your personality probably helps the looseness too, to be frank. I've never known you not to be very outgoing and positive about things. There's no dwelling. There's no negativity that I've seen. Now, maybe you have a whole nother personality that we don't know. But that helps, right? Because if you're there, they can be there. And if you're not there, they are. That's going to help you and the staff as well.
That's right. And, and they're just such a great group to be around. I mean, and then I have an amazing staff. And the chemistry is just there's just no time to focus on the things that go wrong or plays we missed, it's just, you don't have time for that. And plus there's no need to, it hasn't fixed anything. So, as long as we can just lock in the moment and make the most of it, we were playing Rowan at home. I'll give you this example, and one of my senior captains, she's probably going to kill me for sharing this, but
then share away.
I know, right? So she's inbounding the ball, throws it completely to the other team, like she was outletting it to them, right?
Oh, I've done that. Yep.
Cuts the game to 6, and so we get in there at the half, and it was like, okay, listen, like we're playing well here, but I still don't feel good. We have these guys that are locked in, and she just kind of raises her hand and is like, I am so sorry. I don't know what happened. And then we just all laugh, because what are we going to do about it? And it doesn't do any good for her.
Yeah, we've all been there. We've all had a brain lapse, right?
Oh God, I do it every day.
Yeah, the ball's like halfway out of your hand. You're like, oh no. And you want to pull it back so badly, but by the time you can try, it's halfway there. It's gone. The moment's gone. You're just going to have to watch it. I hope she got an assist for it, though.
I think they were just stunned.
Yeah.
But
thank you.
But it was like, it was just such another great leadership moment where she just owned it, and then we laughed about it, and then we just locked right back in. And that's what it's like. You can't even get upset because, again, they own it. They want to be better, and they really, really care about each other. And they're just, I really appreciate. I know I always, when we get on here, I talk about how special my teams are, but there's something bigger happening here, and that's orchestrating it. And I'm just trying to enjoy every moment as I can for as long as I can. I just want us to keep winning so that I can be around them every day.
As we'll talk to other guests on this show, sometimes it's not necessarily about the wins and the losses and the X's and the O's. Tournament play, we get certainly wrapped up in who can make the tournament stuff. There's more going on for 350 plus schools who don't make the NCAA tournament, and that's just the schools. We're not talking about all the programs. Multiply that by 2. There's a lot more going on than that, and there's a lot more in life going on. So that's what's more important, and you guys clearly have the right attitude about that.
I think so too. The girls really dial into why they play and why they play for one another. And we've focused a lot on just building trust. Like, can you go out and do the very best that you can? And then, make sure that you're there for someone else, and again, that's, goes back to that, we've got your back. And then again, talking again about like, just playing with heart. And that just means, again, locking into the moment, locking into whatever we can control, and then trying to just celebrate every moment as it comes, because, you've got, lots of people that are there to support you and enjoy watching you play. And if we can, make somebody's day or, inspire another little girl or another little boy to go out and love the game of basketball, then, we've done more than enough.
Well, I'd talk to you forever, and we already talked more than I thought we would, but it was an enjoyable conversation, so I appreciate the time. Of course, full circle for me, my introduction to Division III women's basketball, not only at my alma mater, took place in the 90s when I'd go back to Maine during March break, go skiing maybe down at Sunday River once or twice with a friend of mine, and the local TV had a particular basketball team on in the Final Four. That's how I got introduced to Southern Maine and understanding the behemoth that was that program. So it's great that you're still going in the coaching realms and we get a chance to chat with you. So I appreciate your time and I got a kick out of it.
All right. I appreciate it so much. Was so blessed to be part of that program, and just hoping I, have a chance to honor all that I've learned from everybody who's impacted my life, from the University of Southern Maine to everybody all the way through.
That was, I'm sure you'd love to see the program back to where it was, but right now you got your own priorities.
That's exactly right. And I think they're making some progress there.
No, they're making, tough conference now. That's a tough conference. Hey, as always, we get the guests though, the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
Again, as these conference races get tight, and there's so much on the line as we go through this. I just wanted to remind everybody that we just get a chance to play a game we love and coach a game we love with the people we care about, and it doesn't get any better than this. So the coaches and players are really lucky to have this and blessed to have this opportunity, and just continue to be the best you can and lock in the moment, and great things are going to happen.
Well said. Very good point. There's bigger things too than just the wins and losses, right? So, Mandy, thank you so much. Take care. Good luck in this battle in the NCAA. It'll be fun to watch. You might get some gray hairs out of this one.
I have more than enough already.
I understand.
There's more to come in the next 2 weeks.
I'm at home, not even coaching, and I understand that entirely. Hey, take care. Good to chat with you. Look forward to catching up with you down the road.
All right. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Mandy King joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Great to chat with her again. They've got TCNJ and Rowan coming up on the road. TCNJ game is the 31st. The Rowan game is on the 3rd. That's all coming up. Just really quickly, because I forgot to do this at the start, looking at the other conferences, Mac Freedom, we talked to DeSales' head coach a few weeks ago, or a few months ago now it is. They continue to lead that conference. They got a 2-game lead on Acadia, and Acadia's only 2 losses of the season are to DeSales. They're both 17-2, but Acadia's 6-2 in conference play. Leadville's 5-3, and then Del Val and Stevens are tied at 4-4. That's going to be a good little race to see who makes the tournament. But DeSales has got the Freedom Conference almost wrapped up. Brooklyn and John Jay and Baruch are in the running for the CUNYAC. They've distanced themselves from Hunter, Lehman, and the rest. Brooklyn and John Jay are having a decent season. We'll have to head into the CUNYAC in the near future. UEC is just complicated. Notre Dame continues to be undefeated on the women's side. Penn State Harrisburg is 7-1 in conference play, 10-11 overall. Yeah, remember, only one bid comes out of that. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll keep talking women's basketball. We'll head up to Connecticut, talk to St. Joseph women's basketball. I can get that out of my mouth. And talk to their women's coach about all the great things that program is doing now in the GNAC race. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3 Hoops after this. The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC 1927. That's NABC.com or NABC 1927 on social media.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else, and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
Responsibility is being accountable for your words and actions, first and foremost. It also is an obligation to be a positive influence in the communities around you. Being in a D3 program, you're going to have lots of different opportunities. You're not just an athlete, you're also involved in student life. Your academics are extremely important. We give a lot of our student athletes responsibilities right from the start by giving them leadership opportunities, by having them engage in the community, be a positive influence. That's being a responsible person.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. As we continue on this Monday evening, plenty of news and notes to talk about at the end of the show. We're going to continue our guests as we're a little bit behind after a great conversation with Mandy King from Kean. Appreciate her all the time she gave us and just the insight on her team. That NCAAs race is going to be fun. Sticking with women's basketball, if you head up into Region 1, which is we're focusing on today, instead of it's a Region 1-2 split usually on Monday, but on Region 1 we head up and look in the GNEC conference. It's an interesting race. For starters, there's a lot of teams. 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 teams on the schedule. No, they don't all play twice. There's not enough games for that. They all play once. St. Joseph Maine is in the lead at 8-0 in a 12-7 overall record. Albertus Magnus having a good season at 16-4. They're 8-1 in conference play. And St. Joseph of Connecticut is 16-3, 7-1 in conference action. Emmanuel 6-1, LaSalle 6-2, Riviere's 5-4, New England and Regis are 4-4, and so on and so forth. Simmons, by the way, is listed here in our system, so really it's 15 teams they haven't played. I'm not sure if I missed something there. That just might be my misspeak there. But my point being is the women's basketball team is having a pretty good time of it at St. Joseph. So earlier today we talked to Wendy Davis about a lot of things, including how exactly has the men's program helped the women's program, what got her interested in all of this to begin with, but most importantly, how the men's program is helping the women's program to some degree. Joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline is the head coach of the St. Joseph women's basketball team. It is Wendy Davis. Coach, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time. This conference is usually known for a St. Joe's of some kind to be on top. It's you all fighting for it at this point in time. Congratulations on what seems to be a pretty stellar season.
Thank you. It's obviously not over, and we still have some big games coming up. But this group is playing well right now. We have a lot of seniors, which is certainly helpful because you cannot put a price tag on experience. That's what I'm learning.
Yeah, I can understand that entirely. But listen, 16 wins. We've already matched the season total from last season. And this is a program that hasn't had more than 16 wins since 2011 when it was 19. So this is significant for this program. You guys are in a position not only in the conference race, but overall that isn't familiar with the program. But I assume, knowing coaches around the world, this is where you wanted this program to be.
Sure. I mean, I came here 6 years ago. And, my first year we won 3 games. So each year we've built. So it went from 3 wins, the next year 11 wins, then COVID, then 15 wins. Last year was 16 wins. And right now we're sitting at 16 wins. So that's always the goal, I think, as a coach, is to every year do better, right? And it's hard once you graduate, like once I graduate these seniors, you're starting over, but the trick is to keep it moving forward. And so, hopefully we'll just keep doing that.
Well, moving forward's the right direction to head, obviously. This is certainly an upperclassman-led program. It's seniors and juniors who are, when you jump on the score sheet, they're the ones that are going to jump out at you. A senior in Jordan Owett, almost 17 points a game. Maya Slits, 15.2. Amanda Fudge at 12.7. And Taylor Verboven at 11.5. All seniors but one, and that's Maya, who's the junior. But that's a lot of scoring too. 4 players, double figures, and you're averaging 73.6. That core, that quad there is significant. So you got the experience, but you also got a lot of scoring.
For sure. But it also is based on them playing, several years together now, right? So like 2 years ago when they were sophomores, at the start of a game, I would listen to the other team's players and they'd be saying, senior, senior, senior. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh boy, I feel like I have the talent, but I have a bunch of sophomores. So I don't know how this is going to go, and now finally I'm in a position where I actually have the seniors and the talent. And then obviously Maya Sliz mixed in there too, who's having just a phenomenal season. So, it's a little more calming this year coaching them, because I, for the most part, know what I'm going to get every night. 2 years ago when they were sophomores, I had no idea what I was going to get every night. So, not for nothing, but looking ahead, 3 of those seniors that start, minus Amanda Fudge, they still have their COVID year. So they're still debating if they come back next year as well. So, next year could be even better.
Well, that's where I was going to ask that next. Is the disadvantage to this is you got your eggs somewhat all in one basket. But if they've got that COVID year left, which is the final year that could be eligible for everybody, that's a dangerous concept to then consider. There's the likes of Shania Oliver and Natalia Zappone, who are second in scoring, just for as an example. Now they're getting that experience still with this team. They're gaining more experience. You're getting more weapons into place. And I say weapons kind of loosely there, but the pieces certainly coagulate even better, that even next year, should they return, as you said, could build this program further down the road and get you guys into a better spot.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited because, the group that is debating whether to come back or not, like, they're just awesome human beings who can also play basketball, right? And so if I can have them one more year to be great role models for the kids that are on the team now, but also for the incoming freshmen I'm going to have next year, it's to have them one more time to kind of show them the ropes. Again, you can't put a price tag on experience. You just can't. They've been with my program now, which would end up being 5 years, right? Because of COVID. They know what I expect on a daily basis. They know what kind of defense we play. They know our offenses. So it's like they're almost coaching themselves this year in a sense. But next year they can help me coach the younger players that I'm bringing in. So,
well, and that's the key, right? Because you need this to transition now. It can't just be, hey, we had a great year, maybe next year had an even better year. Who knows what those circumstances are, and then drop off the cliff, because that's going to be harder to rebuild from, I'm assuming, not only for the shock and awe that those players are going to go through not having the success they had watching for a year or two. But recruiting-wise, they're all going to maybe look at it going, well, where's the consistency of a program I want to join? So there's importance here of building this consistency for a program that hasn't had it.
Correct. Yeah, it's really important to keep consistency. And it's like, you know, when I said, when I got here, there was not a lot happening with 3 wins. And now the last couple of years, you know, 15 wins, 16 wins, we have 16 now. Like that is going to kind of be our go-to every year. So yeah, next year I could see it happening again, but you're right. It's that following year that, you know, I'm really going to have to put in the work and make sure that I'm bringing in good players, but that they're also figuring it out quickly, because I don't want that drop off. You know, it's hard to keep a program consistently high. You know, not many coaches can do that. And so, you know, that'll be interesting to see how that pans out for sure.
This conference race is interesting. The GNAC is a beast. It is very large. Didn't go to divisional look. Everybody's kind of just there. And in an effort to not kill everybody's schedule, you went with the oddity of basically playing everybody once. There's some advantages to that. There's some disadvantages to that. The big disadvantages, you already played St. Joseph's of Maine, who's sitting ahead of you in the conference race. And unfortunately, that was on the road and a loss by 11. There's no way of making that up. You can't get that game back now, especially at your place. Get a win, knot things up, and go, hey, let's go. Let's figure it out with everybody else how we're going to finish this conference race, who's going to be on top. That's got to be there's some positives, but there's got to be some negatives that makes it a little frustrating.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, last year we were in divisions, and now this year we're not. So it's like we keep bouncing back and forth. So we need to find some consistency here first, right? So playing everybody once is tough. You know, we played St. Joe's of Maine. That was our first conference game. I want to think that we are a better basketball team now than we were then, but I'm sure they are as well. So, yeah, I mean, you know, hopefully we get another shot at them come playoff time. That's obviously what we're hoping, because you got to be the best, you got to beat the best, and they are the best right now. So, you know, hopefully we get another shot at them.
Yeah, fair. It makes total sense to me. We should point out that last year lost by only 5 points in mid-January to them. It's not like it's a program you certainly can't go toe-to-toe with. By the way, I'm going to quickly take a dart and throw it at the wall. We'll figure out what next year's lineup for the GNAC is, whether it's divisional or offset. I don't know. Maybe we'll have different conference mates than we don't even realize yet that haven't been announced. That's the other challenge, too. This conference is ever-changing in what is an ever-changing New England, and it is going to continue to change, whether it's the announcements we already know have been made or the ones that are still to come that nobody is aware of yet that we know, you know, there's stuff going on. We know there is. Is that tough from a coach's perspective of just not knowing what you can or can't do with your out of conference, not knowing what will or won't impact your conference? You already pointed out the scheduling's a nightmare.
Yeah, it's a little tough. You know, last year playing divisions, I didn't have to find that many non-conference games. And now this season, because we went to just playing everyone once, now I had to find 11. You know, and I, you know, from what I'm hearing, I'm probably going to have to find more next year. So there's just always changes. There's just changes all the time in our conference.
Find more. What are they thinking of doing next year?
Well, I don't know that I can say all that, but I think there's some changes that are going to happen. So I'm just going to play it out and see what.
Yeah, well, I get it. It's not easy. I'm intrigued now. I may make some phone calls later. Again, a program though. You're in rarefied air already. 16-10 last season, and again, the prior best season to that was 19-7 back in 2010, 2011, when obviously you weren't there. And we're talking recent history. This is going back to 06, 07. We're not going further back than that in the history, but that tells us a lot. This is a 3-9 win program for many years. You certainly knew it. You had coached at Trinity prior to coming to here, and you had coached at Western New England prior to coming to Trinity. So you certainly were familiar with this program and the area and all that. I'm kind of intrigued after what seemed like some success at Trinity, though granted in a very tough new NESCAC. What intrigued you about coming to St. Joe's?
Well, that was an interesting situation. The then coach quit about a week before the season was supposed to start. So I knew the then athletic director, Bill Cardarelli, from years ago. His wife used to be my trainer when I played, so we go way back. And actually, I was in a 2-year stint of doing some home remodeling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I learned so much. So
That seems sarcastic.
What's that?
That seems sarcastic.
No, I did. I learned so much. It was fabulous. I was actually on a roof, putting a new roof on in Suffield, Connecticut, when Bill Cartarelli called me and said, any chance you want to coach my team this year? My coach just quit. So I was up there thinking, okay, I'm afraid of heights. What am I doing up here on this roof when I can be coaching basketball again? So I had to take some time, because I needed a break from coaching, which is why I left Trinity. But I'm so glad I took the chance because I just love it here at St. Joe's. It's they're welcoming, they're supportive. Our president, Rona Free, is a huge fan. She comes to all our games. My athletic director, Amanda Devitt, she's awesome. She coached Division III basketball, so she knows the drill. I mean, I'm surrounded by strong, powerful female leaders at this school, and I'm just so glad that I can now end my career feeling great about coaching basketball again.
Listen, I can appreciate that. There's a bit to unpack from all that. First, did this old house call? I know you can get that reference. Others might not. Did this old house call say, listen, we'd love to rebuild a house, but you're going to do it. We're just going to watch. That would have been a lot of help.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. This guy came and resited my house, and then he was looking for workers. So it was the father, 2 sons, and myself. So it was a 4-person crew. I learned how to build decks. I learned how to make additions to houses. The roof one was the scariest for me because I am afraid of heights. So that one was tough. So had Bill called me when I was maybe building a deck, I might have had a different answer. But when I was up on that roof, scared to death, I gave it a second thought.
Listen, I'm scared of heights as well. I don't think you could catch me on a roof doing a roof job, especially mine, which is at a really nasty pitch. So I can fully relate to that, though. I think Kevin O'Connor and Tom Silver might be. We gotta call them and tell them about this great little story about how a coach decided to become a roofer, and then remodel homes, and then went back to coaching. But the other part of that is the same time you came in. Interesting enough was when Jim Calhoun came in. The program had gone co-ed. The school had gone co-ed. Maybe people don't realize you're a UConn grad. So as part of this UConn tidal wave, invasion, I don't know what you want to call it, of St. Joseph's. And obviously the attention has been on the men's program for what Calhoun and everybody else there at the men's program have done stunningly well, to be completely honest. That is not easy to do, though. I've always argued going co-ed to men and bringing men in, you certainly can have a big bang for your buck right out of the gate. But Glenn Miller and the rest have done a tremendous job. What was your mentality coming in? You obviously knew Coach Calhoun from your days at UConn, but what was your mentality coming in, taking that job, knowing what the men were now doing at that campus? Was there any trepidation that this was going to be the Calhoun show and you guys were just going to be kind of the other gig?
Sure, a little bit. And it was. My first year, they were doing the ESPN.
Yeah, the documentary, yeah.
Yeah, the documentary. So like every single practice, they were here. So it was like, can you please get off the court so the women can practice? Oh, the women have to practice? So yeah.
Excuse me, we only have one gym here.
That first year was tough, I'm not going to lie. But I knew that all that would subside. And I just kept my head down and recruited and tried to make the best of that first year. me from when he coached at UConn. So, you know, that first year was tough in some ways, but in other ways he helped it along. And, you know, I think just having the men here, first of all, it kept St. Joe's alive, in my opinion. And the constant press that we were getting from the men's side helped with my recruiting. And so ultimately, I do believe that, you know, having a great men's team has definitely helped with me with recruiting for my team. So it wasn't something that I was against or not happy with at all. I felt like it helped my program. And you know, Glenn and I, we get along great, and we're both rocking and rolling this year, trying to keep things going. So, you know, I'm one of these believers that the more teams that can win at your school, the better it is. And not everybody believes that. You know, there's some schools where it's like, I hope I do well and hope everyone else does poorly because it makes me look good. That's not how we operate here at St. Joe's at all. It's a true family in that we want everybody to do well.
You hit on a thing that I've seen too many times, whether it's a women's coach or a men's coach who doesn't want the other program to succeed because they think it takes away from their program. I have seen it in too many places. It is the most egotistical and non-Division III thing I have ever seen in my life. And it baffles me that they think it's totally kosher. But unpacking the men's side, I come from a school that went co-ed. I was a male student athlete who came on that campus because I know they needed male students. It absolutely saved that campus. If it saves it for the future, I don't know. It's different time then. The timing was different. But we have Notre Dame down in Maryland who has just made that decision and gone co-ed this year. And you've got other schools I know who are grappling with that conversation. So I can certainly appreciate that perspective. But again, to your point, the attention was on the men's program. So how you hinted on it there. You touched on it a little bit. Give us a little sense of really where that was helping you on the recruiting side, because obviously it's got you to this point.
Yeah, well, it's really just a matter of, you know, I would talk to a recruit and I'd be like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I saw your men's team on the news the other day, right? Or, oh, Calhoun's coaching the men's team. You know, hey, whatever. I don't care. Whatever gets you to come here.
You know who I am, so let's go. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't care. You know, it's like however
you might see Jim walking around. You never know.
Yeah, he still walks around these halls. So yeah, I mean, again, it's like I really started by focusing on just recruiting a lot of Connecticut kids because I feel like there's good enough basketball here. And I knew I had to also understand the fact that I would probably have a lot of commuters at first because there's a lot of commuters at this school. And so I kind of stayed close to home my first few years. And if you look at my roster, I still stayed close to home. I have a lot of Connecticut kids. So, you know, they watch the news, parents watch the news. And I can't tell you how many times I would go up and talk to a kid and then the parent would say, oh, Jim Calhoun's at that school now? Hey, whatever starts a conversation, I'll take it. And that's kind of how it went.
Yeah, looking at the roster, I mean, Bristol, Columbia, Middletown, which, by the way, is home of Wesleyan, Bristol again, Willimantic, Hartford, Canton, Morris, Plainville, New Britain, Walcott. Yeah, they're all within, an hour at the most.
At the most.
Yeah, at the most. Now, you do have a Puerto Rico in there. You do have a Palmer, Massachusetts, so that's not too far out of the stretch. And you do have a North Scituate, Rhode Island, which isn't too far away either. But still, yeah, a little bit of variety, but it certainly is an interesting, more close to home roster, as it were. You said something else that really jumped out at me. Again, a former all-women's school that went co-ed to men, obviously. Bring in a men program, bring in a Jim Calhoun, bring in a Glenn Miller. They get all the attention. But you talk about an AD, former coach, a lot of support. You talk about a president who shows up to games, ton of support. We have seen that in what she has said, especially about the men's program. That is, I wouldn't call it unique, but it certainly isn't always the case at small Division III institutions. to get everybody on board and get that kind of top-down support. I know it doesn't give you the world, but it's got to give you a lot.
Absolutely. President Free, I just love that she is pro athletics. You know, it's tough coaching at a school where the president doesn't buy into athletics. Like, let's
or
be
get
realistic.
it at all.
Exactly. And let's be realistic. Like, we work for admissions. Like, we are bringing in, the people. So she understands that. She gets it. And even, Amanda, our athletic director, again, she coached Division III. She was at Whitworth. Her husband coached at Hartford as an assistant. So, I mean, just having people that understand athletics, there's some athletic directors that they've never coached or played a sport in their life, but they're business people, or they were hired to be a big fundraiser, right? And that just doesn't bode well for the coaches or the student athletes. And I just feel like we really have the best of both worlds with the president and the athletic director just being pro athletics, pro coaches, pro student athletes. And I mean, our school is just booming. I mean, we just built a brand new baseball field for our first year baseball coach, Adam Goss, who's going to do a tremendous job this year. So, I mean, that's, USJ is just, it's going up. And a lot of not a lot, but there are some Division III schools in New England who are going the other way and closing. So
no, we're gonna see a lot of closings. To be hearing about growth and about builds and about confidence in things is not an always conversation, especially in New England.
Right. So, for me, it's kudos to President Free for realizing that in order to keep USJ going and not even going, but be better, was to bring in someone like Jim Calhoun to coach your men's basketball team. I mean, good for her. She's a business person. She's smart.
Right. The savviness there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then complete the UConn invasion by bringing in a Wendy Davis. We should point out, by the way, you and Glenn both also have the NESCAC understanding. He was previously at Conn College, you previously at Trinity. You two both understand the academic angles of this stuff as well. Hey, quickly before we let you go, I've taken a lot of your time. I really appreciate it. This has been awesome to talk to you. Sorry we didn't get you on sooner, but let me pivot back to the season. You're at Dean for your next game coming up February 1st, then at home against Albertus Magnus, on the road for 2 more, at home for the final 2 before you jump into the GNAC tournament. Listen, we know it's coach speak. You take one game at a time, but at the same time, I know you want to stay in position for this GNAC tournament and hopefully maybe punch a ticket to March if you can get the right spot. So what's the conversation in the locker rooms? What's the mentality? What's the point of view going into your final 6 before tournament play?
Yeah, well, it's like you said, to stay the course. It is one game at a time, actually, but I haven't been calling it, but my players have been calling it the revenge tour. Last year we lost an important game against Riviere. We beat them this year. Last year we lost a really important game to Regis. We beat them this year. And those games last year, those losses dropped us down to where we had to play the play-in game of the playoffs. So we had to play Monday and Tuesday, and that's just tough. So our goal at all costs this year is to stay out of that playing game on Monday. We want to play Tuesday at home, and that's the goal. And to play Tuesday at home, you gotta finish pretty strong. So, but yeah, I mean, we're not done with our revenge tour yet. So we want to keep it going. It's exciting for this group, and I'm happy for them. Because like you said, the men, they do get a lot of the press, and which is fine. But I feel like this year we're kind of staying with them as far as our record, and the girls are excited about that. So I'm happy for them.
Well, congratulations. Seriously. Really impressed with what the program's been able to turn around the corner, and we're looking forward to seeing how it continues to play out. Appreciate you coming on and talking about it and being so forthright as well. Again, I don't suggest going back to the roof, but we have some projects around this house. I might need to call you on A, some tips, or B, listen, side gig this summer? I don't know.
Hey, let me know. I redid my kitchen for like a quarter of the price. So
See, we need a new master bath. We need new windows. The roof's getting taken care of with insurance. We're okay there, but the rest, we need some help. Maybe I'll call you.
all right. Hey, it's a life skill that you just, it's a life skill that's it's saving me a lot of money.
Yeah, that's the truth. If we can find a way to say it's the saving money part. I'm good with some things. It's just the overall. So I'll call you. We'll talk. We'll work something out. Wendy Davis, thanks for the time. Really appreciate it. We have a tradition on this show. We always give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
Oh, just, the last push. I hope all the coaches out there just, stay consistent, stay true to who you are as a coach, and have some fun. That's the other thing. I didn't even have to take this job. I could have just said, peace out, I'm done. But coaching's fun. And sometimes we get so wrapped up in the wins and losses that we don't enjoy the journey. So everybody out there, just enjoy the journey. Have some fun in life.
And could you tell Gino to do the same, by the way? Sometimes I'm worried he's getting too much into the wins and losses.
Yeah, Gino needs to have some fun. I think he's just drinking too much wine at this point.
Brilliant. Love it. Wendy, thanks so much for your time.
Take
care. We'll look forward to catching up with you down the road.
All right. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Wendy Davis joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Great conversation with Coach. Really enjoyed that one. Great to chat with her. Appreciate the time that she gave us. Fun conversation, to say the least. Again, that race is crazy, and she's hinted she doesn't really know what the scheduling is going to be next year, which is kind of perplexing to me. We're going to have to dive into that. The GNAC, I'm not sure what the solution is. Apparently they didn't like division, so they all went all in. There's going to be some changes in the Northeast that could affect some of this, but we'll keep an eye on that and see how that GNAC race continues. The rest of Region 1 very quickly. Obviously, in the NESCAC, Bowdoin and Bates are starting to really pull themselves away from the rest. They're both 6-0. Bowdoin 19-1, Bates 18-2, the two main schools who are neighbors, doing really well this season. Middlebury is next, 13-7 overall, 5-2 in conference play, followed by Trinity, Connecticut, who's 13-6, 4-2. Then Amherst, 16-4, 4-3, and then Tufts, 11-7, 3-3. By the way, all but two teams in the NESCAC have a winning record this season. Wesley and Colby Hamilton all have winning records overall. The only ones who don't are Williams and Connecticut College. And Williams, Pat Manning's squad, has pulled off some huge upsets this season. That NESCAC may not be as top dominant as it seems. I think Bowdoin and Bates maybe being undersold a little bit. But it's deeper and more competitive than it's ever been. And that's been a lot of fun to watch. MASCAC, Bridgewater State, is on top of the conference at 7-0, but they're 11-9 overall. Framingham State is 6-1 in conference play and 17-2 overall. This is that Framingham State team we saw out in Las Vegas who beat Westminster, Missouri handily and then had a really good battle with Trinity, Texas. Walter Pascal's team playing very well. Their one loss in conference, Bridgewater State. Watch the end of this MASCAC race. It'll be fun. They've distanced themselves a little bit from Westfield, who's 2 games back of Framingham, so 3 games back of Bridgewater State, and then Worcester State is much further back than that. So this is turning into a 2-team race at the top of the MASCAC. Over in the NAC, of course, it's split into 2 regions. Maine Maritime women are playing well. They're 8-0 in conference play. This is tough math. I think it's a 2-game lead on Husson. They've got 1 in the win column and 3 in the loss column. Having a really good season. On the other side, SUNY Cobleskill is leading the way. They're 18-1 overall, 9-0 in conference action. Reminder, the 2 sides will face off for the win. And then if you quickly go to Region 2, I know I'm taking some time that we really need to go elsewhere with, but I wanted to go through the conferences. You got the NUMAC in the Little East, the Triple C, obviously, here. And in the NUMAC, it is a 5-horse race. I kid you not. We were talking about how crazy the NJAC is. Well, Smith, Coast Guard, Springfield, Clark, and MIT are all 4-1. Babson is 3-2. Emerson is 2-3. Wheaton, Mass, WPI 1-4. Wellesley and Mount Holyoke are all 0-5. 5 teams tied atop the NUMAC race right now. Again, they all play each other once, though a few of them play each other a second time overall. Smith is 15-3. Coast Guard 15-4. Springfield 15-4. Clark 14-5. MIT 13-5. Really good basketball in the NUMAC. Over in the LEC, the Little East, Rhode Island College continues to dominate. They're 20-0, 11-0 in conference play. Mass Dartmouth is having a really good season at 17-2, 9-1 in conference action. It's just being dwarfed by Rhode Island College, and they have distanced themselves. Eastern Connecticut and Southern Maine are all 6-5. Southern Maine is 8-12 overall, but 6-5 in conference play. But again, they're 3.5 games back of Mass Dartmouth, and Eastern Connecticut and Southern Maine are sitting 5 games back of Rhode Island College. It is Rhode Island College's to continue to dominate. In the Triple C Conference, Western New England leads the way, 1-game lead over a 3-way tie for second with Suffolk, University of New England, and Roger Williams. And then it's 2 games back to get to Endicott. So that's an interesting race in the Commonwealth. Western New England in a good position there, but that is far, far from over. We'll take another break. When we come back, we'll head out to the Northwest Conference, talk men's basketball with Whitworth and the Pirates. A great conversation as well with Damion Jablonski. Coach Damion. I for some reason, I got his last name stuck in my head for some reason. We'll fix that when we come back from the break. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was scared and shy. It was hard to look at people's faces. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. I made friends and won lots of gold medals. But I learned more than just playing golf. Special Olympics helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
We are calling you, all of you. We are calling all Division III schools to join our cause.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division III. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
I learned a lot of valuable lessons playing college football. I never thought about the health benefits of exercise until I actually started to talk to coaches in college. It's not only just for performance, it's for life. My coaches instilled the importance of well-being, not only building up strength, mental health, getting enough sleep, eating properly is all what it is to be healthy. I decided that I want to go into personal trainer and share my knowledge that I obtained in college about physical and mental well-being.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Quick update on our Facebook stream. Can't get it back up and running. It was dumped once again, as it has been recently by Facebook, for whatever reason when our camera freezes. But now the problem is it won't restart it on the exact same credentials. But we'll figure that out in the offseason ahead of our half marathon. Not off-season, I'm sorry, off week, ahead of our half marathon coming up on Friday. Switching gears, talking men's basketball. If you look at the North, in the Region 10, which of course now encompasses the SCIAC, the SCAC, the ASC, the Northwest Conference, it's an interesting scenario. First off, let's quickly look around. The SCAC race, the Southern Collegiate Athletic Conference race, it's Trinity, Texas is right now. They're 21-1. They're 11-1 overall. They've now got a 2-game lead on St. Thomas, Texas, who has the win over Trinity, but have not been able to close the gap further. I think they did take another loss after that, unfortunately, though they won their last one. They're both 9-1 in their last 10. Colorado College is 2 games back of St. Thomas. Schreiner is a game back of Colorado College, or they're kind of tied. St. Thomas is 8-2. Schreiner is 7-5. Colorado, Texas is 6-4. Then Centenary at 5-5. So a bit of a confusion there. Trinity, Texas, at this point, playing to hopefully be hosting the opening weekend, if not maybe beyond, if they can get it all right. But they can't take another loss, in my opinion, to anybody they should be beaten. The SCIAC, the Southern Collegiate Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, Cal Lutheran dominating right now. They got a 1-game lead on Claremont Mudd Scripps, who's got a half-game lead on Pomona Pitzer, who's got a 1.5 lead on Occidental. Redlands has faded, interestingly enough. But Cal Lutheran has won 12 in a row now. They are 16-3 overall and 9-1 in conference play. Claremont Mudd Scripps has won 1 in a row, but they're 9 wins in their last 10, 14-5 overall. Pomona Pitzer have won 6 of their last 10. They're 14-4 overall. Occidental is 5-5 in the last 10. So is Chapman. Redlands is 6-4 in their last 10. They have been struggling in conference play, basically alternating wins and losses since the New Year's. Lost to Claremont Mudd Scripps, beat Whittier, lost to Pomona Pitzer, beat Occidental, lost to Chapman, beat Caltech, lost to Laverne, and now have beat Whittier, but they've got Pomona Pitzer ahead along with Cal Lutheran and Claremont Mudd Scripps. So Redlands, if they want to get back into it, can make some waves in the next 3. We'll keep an eye on the SCIAC race, but Cal Lutheran really impressing this season. American Southwest Conference, Hardin-Simmons really playing well. Though they've only won their last 4, they're 9 of their last 10 as their wins. Their 1 loss coming to Concordia, Texas, back on the 13th. But they got a game lead on Texas Dallas, who in turn has a 2-game lead on Laterno and East Texas Baptist, who are each 7-5. Hardin-Simmons in control of that ASC right now, that ever dwindling ASC. Then you jump to the Northwest Conference. It's a 2-team race right now atop. The 2 Wits, Whitman and Whitworth. Then George Fox, Willamette, and Puget Sound are all 6-4. Pacific Lutheran and Pacific are 4-6. And I'm wondering if Linfield's regretting getting rid of their coach, but I digress. But the 2 Wits are going to be playing on Tuesday night in their final game against one another. For Whitworth, after that, they are home for 3 of their final 5. But this Whitman game is huge after they have lost the last 2 games this past weekend. And we got a chance to talk to Damion Jablonski about the team and what is going on at Whitman, and it was a great conversation. It's on the Hoopsville Hotline. It's the head coach of the Whitworth Pirates. It's our friend Damion Jablonski. Damion, first off, congratulations on leading the conference at this point, because it feels like it's a, and I know you're tied with Whitman, don't get me wrong, but it feels like this is a conference that's a little bit all over the place, to be completely honest. But welcome in on the same and all the same, and I know it's a tough stretch right here, but I appreciate your time.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. Yeah, like you said, I think our conference is it's a wide open race, and this is my 13th year at Whitworth, and I think it's probably just the tightest Northwest Conference race that I've been a part of.
Tight is for sure. As we said in the intro, you are tied with Whitman at the top. Surprise, the two Whits are tied at the top. 8-2, that seems to be the pattern for a number of years. George Fox 2 games back in a 3-way tie for third with Willamette and Puget Sound. And we should point out that I went and booked this segment not seeing a 2-game losing streak for the weekend coming for you all. So I appreciate you coming on. But prior to that, you had won 7 in a row. But streaks are kind of the story of this. We'll get into that in a little bit more detail, but let's just talk about the weekend quickly. Get it out of the way. Pacific, Willamette, 2 teams that you had to travel to, but both teams not necessarily, I mean, I assume you expected to come out of that 2-0.
Sure. I mean, that's the hope. Obviously, we're 8-0 in conference at the turn, and, you know, there are some things on our side, obviously, we're disappointed about, but, you know, it's kind of a testament to what I was saying about this conference and just honestly college basketball in general is, you know, there is a lot of parity out there, and, you know, any team can win on any given night. And, you know, we ran into a couple teams that really got it going on the offensive end and shot the ball really well. And we just didn't do what we needed to do to get it done. So credit to both of those teams, but we still find ourselves tied for the lead in the Northwest Conference and heading to Whitman tomorrow for a matchup that will be pretty pivotal.
Yeah, that's the case. Our timing works out perfect right ahead of the Whitman rivalry game, the rare midweek game in conference play. Going back to early December when you played Willamette and Pacific prior, you beat Willamette handily, 101-71, and you beat Pacific in a tight game, 67-65. This time around, losing by 15 to Pacific, 89-74, and losing by 7 to Willamette. What, other than it being 6 weeks later, what was the, and home and away, I realize that's a significant part of this too, but what was the difference on the floor?
They shot the heck out of the ball, both teams. I think, if I recall, I mean, it was plus 60% for Pacific on that night, and it just seemed like it didn't matter what we did, the ball was going to drop for them. So again, you know, a credit to them. You know, I think it's funny, you know, you get, you know, fans or talking heads, like, you know, people in your area. And it's like, we all fans want you to be perfect. I understand that. I feel that way as a coach too, but sport has a way of, providing humility. And in a game like basketball, where a really good shooting night or, you know, just the number of components that go into a game, like any team can win on any given night. So that's what we ran into. And, you know, it's funny, you know, there was a quote that's been circulating on social media from Nikola Jokic. I don't know if you've heard it recently, but he talks about, he said, like, if you want to be successful, then you have to be bad. And then you need to be good. And once you're good, you need to fail. And that's how you figure it out. And there's a process to it. And those are the steps involved, and you can't skip them. And so I think there's so many parallels to my team, you know, what we're going through right now, of just figuring it out. You know, we've been good, and you got to have some trip ups along the way. You know, one thing about my squad that's interesting is that, you know, I play 9 to 10 guys on a given night, and I'm anchored by a graduate and 2 seniors, and then the other 7 players are sophomores. So I have a very young squad overall, and you know, in college basketball, experience, you know, means a lot, and you got to go through those things to gain experience.
You know, well said. Lot to unpack there. First off, hadn't heard that quote, only because I don't dive into the NBA as much as I do D3, but it's a very good point. To your point about the shooting, by the way, Pacific in that game this weekend shot 55% for the game, but 62% in the first half. They were 56% beyond the arc, but they were 5 of 6 in the first half. You guys shot 44% and 35%, I would say, about average. In the second game, just for everybody at home, 54% is what Willamette shot for the game, including 64+% in the second half. While you guys actually not too bad. You were 52.5% for the game. Just the outside shooting failed you in the first half, going 1 for 6. So just to back up what you were saying there a bit. Going to your team, let's let's pivot to that. We'll dive back into the schedule again because there are a couple questions I have. But since you brought up the team,
Sure.
It's a great point to talk about. JoJo Anderson leads this team in scoring. He is a junior with 2 years of experience scoring almost 17 points a game, pulling down 3 boards. One of the top guys handing out assists. In fact, he is the top guy in assists. And then it's Jake Holtz. I think a lot of people know the Jake Holtz name, certainly the senior from Hawaii, averaging 16 points a game, 6.5 boards per contest, shoots really well at 56+%. And then it's Sullivan Menard, the other one in double figures. Menard, that senior you were talking about as well, at 14.5, 5 points a game, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, it's that trio. And as you said, it's underclassmen, upperclassmen kind of mix. You also go deep in the bench. Dive into this a little bit more for us.
Sure. Yeah. Well, JoJo is a junior in academically, but a sophomore basketball wise. He was out all last year due to a season-ending injury just prior to the start of the season. So he's really still a bit youthful in that, but super dynamic guard and able to create a lot of things. Jake is, a senior who plans on coming back for a grad year, go to grad school next year. And he's really, I don't know, about 50 points away from hitting the 1,000-point mark. So he's been a great scorer for us and really, really grown over the years. And then Sullivan is a transfer who's been in our program for 2 years, but the first year he was injured as well. And he's done a great job this year, just really coming on and being a scorer. So yeah, those guys have led us, and then we've had different contributors on different nights from those underclassmen, and I'm really excited about that group. Again, I think even just to have that many guys that I feel comfortable going with is a testament to what kind of depth we ultimately will have. But again, they're learning and they're growing. So love my team. It's a great group of guys. And obviously we've had some bumps along the way, but we've had some great victories. We were able to pull out a win against Elmhurst in late December, and that kind of spurred on our run that we were on until this weekend through conference. So that's, again, when I go back to that quote that I talked about, I think, we've had some recent failures, and this is our chance to figure it out.
No, great point. Again, a tough stretch, but you've got Whitman now right ahead of you. There's got to be a little bit of, if it's accurate, goldfish mentality here, right? It kind of steal it a little bit from Ted Lasso. Forget it. You've got to move on here. You've got to focus on Whitman. It's a battle for first place. It's at their place. There's a lot riding on Tuesday night before you even tackle the rest of the season. Yes, this weekend put you in the spot, though it's still a big game, but you got to forget it this weekend.
Yeah, you do. You move on, and that's what honestly life is about. You have to take the next steps, and I think that's what's a great opportunity as a coach and as an educator, to be able to help these student athletes understand, is that you just got to put your next foot forward and continue to be in the process, because life is going to throw a lot of trials and tribulations at you. And that's the beauty of sport, is that you get to learn these lessons through a game that are ultimately going to help you in life. So you're right. I mean, you have to learn what yesterday, the lessons they provided you, but then you have to quickly refocus and move forward. You can't dwell on the past. You can't think too far ahead in the future. You just have to try and be in the present.
To pivot on that a little bit, and not to say it can't happen, but you guys did have a 4-game losing streak in December. That certainly is probably a concern in this moment. You lost.
It's not, Dave. That's
the
past.
I know. I got to say it, though,
that's
right?
The past. Those are the easy things to get caught up on.
Absolutely. That's my point.
Which is the same thing in the where are you at in a victory stretch? Well, it doesn't matter. It's only what is next in front of you. So that's, I think, the beauty of it. It really is. It's so easy for us. It's human nature to do that. All of us do that. I mean, you probably don't meet a coach out there who before the season doesn't daydream about going undefeated for the rest of the season, before you play the game. And so we all do that. But ultimately that rarely happens. I know there's some some awesome instances out there where it has, but it rarely happens. And so, and probably the way that it does happen is those people are able to be in the moment as much or better than others.
No, great point. And that's kind of where I was going with that, because yes, it's a 4-game losing streak that you're supposed to not remember. However,
Right.
I want to point out just a couple of interesting things about it. First, it was coming off the Willamette and Pacific weekend sweep. It was Oshkosh, Santa Cruz, Dubuque, Knox. For the most part, pretty good teams. We know Oshkosh, despite being in the middle of the WIAC, still a darn good team. Santa Cruz just knocked off Christopher Newport on the East Coast. Dubuque has been in the conversation in the top 25 now in an absolutely bonkers ARC race. And Knox
Dubuque
actually
is a very good team.
Yeah, exactly. And Knox has been an interesting squad. I've kind of been watching them a little bit from the side going, they got off to a good start. They look like a good team. They've fallen on tougher times, but they get some big victories. So it's an interesting 4-game stretch right before the holidays. Of course, we should point out Dubuque and Knox was in Hawaii, so I feel horrible for you all on that trip. I know that was a tough one for you. But my point being is, okay, yes, you're supposed to forget about it. But you as a coach or as a staff or even as a team, what lessons can you take from that 4-game stretch that even though you're supposed to be forgetting, you either adjust practices or you adjust tactics or you adjust whatever going, okay, this didn't work. Let's take this from a different approach.
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated because the opponents change. So there's always strategy and tactics that are involved. And, you learn your team throughout the season. Every coach learns the specific team, and you rely on the experience that you have with other teams to try and apply, solutions to things. So, but I would say the thing that helped us the most, because you talk about that streak of being, on the wrong end of the win-loss. And then we turn that around with a victory over a top 25 team. You mentioned Ted Lasso earlier. It really is the fact that you have to believe. You have to believe in yourself and those people around you. And you have to believe that you're doing everything within your power to make corrections and to put your best foot forward. And so I think the belief part of it is the most important thing as a program, as a team, as a coach trying to distill on your players that you have to do. It really is. You have to believe and trust that if you do the right things, if you focus on the process, the results will most likely be the best possible.
Yeah, that's the interesting part is after that 4-game slide right before Christmas, you're in Hawaii. You come back after the New Year's and you or right before New Year's, I should say. A lot of people had December 30th games beside not going anywhere. It's thrown me off this season. You beat Elmhurst, who at the time was a top 25 team, certainly still in that conversation in a tough CCIW. But you beat Elmhurst by 3 at home. You then got the win over Whitman. That technically puts you kind of in the edge right now. And 2 games after that, you get the win over George Fox, who was obviously having a really good season too. So yeah, interesting. 4-game slide, tough teams, pivot out of that, 4-game wins, tough teams. Now you're in this 2-game slide and you need to get back on the horse. What is it about Whitman that you guys are, I know you're not going to give me X's and O's prior to the game, but what is it about Whitman that you guys think you can take advantage of, or what is in your favor or worked well in the last game that you hope to replicate, et cetera, et cetera? Obviously knowing, coaches may be listening to the show and all that, but the game is still to be played.
Yeah, well, I mean, in any game you go into, you want to try and do your best to maximize your strengths and minimize theirs. They're a really good offensive team. They play with really great pace offensively. They cut really well, and they have a lot of guys who can shoot the ball. And so, I think anytime you can try and take a team out of what they like to do, at least try and minimize it. That's what you're going to do. And so, it's going to take a really great defensive effort from us. A rivalry game is awesome. It's really fun to play in those games. I've been here 13 years and, these two programs, first of all, just in proximity, it's a rival for the school. And then, we've had two really successful basketball programs over that time. And so there's been a lot of really great games. And I think our guys look forward to it. They're excited about the challenge, and we know that there's going to be a lot of passion behind it. And so it'll be a fun challenge for us.
Yeah, two programs that have been at the top of the Northwest Conference have certainly done well, had really good runs in the NCAA tournament especially, and two programs who have changed coaches during that time, and you and Lamanna are saddled with keeping that tradition and success going, which is an interesting perspective as well in all of this. After that, you got 3 games at home: Lewis and Clark, Linfield, George Fox. Then you finish on the road with Pacific Lutheran and Puget Sound. Obviously, this is far from done. I do ask you this, though. Pretty good out-of-conference schedule, but probably not the results you need to help yourself if you don't get the AQ. Is the conversation already been had that we got to win the AQ here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. You play, as a coach, my philosophy has been to try and play the best non-conference schedule possible for a variety of reasons. One, so that you can help your team learn and grow and be prepared to compete at a national level. And 2, to give yourselves an opportunity potentially to have, an at-large discussion. We didn't get the results that are going to warrant that, but we still got the opportunity to cut our teeth against some really good teams and grow. And I think that that's only going to benefit us down the road. And, you always run that risk. If you're not able to win enough of those games to not be in that conversation. But to be honest with you, there is actually somewhat of a liberation that comes from that. I know you're in the business of talking about those bubble teams and doing that, but when it's not something you need to worry about, then there's no worry involved, and you just can focus on the task at hand. So it might not be what we wanted out of it, but it can also be a blessing to some degree, because your players and your coaches aren't thinking about that. You're only thinking about, what's in front of you.
Man, there's a lot out of that. That's great. You're right. If you know that the only goal here right now is to win the AQ and get in, you don't have to literally worry about anything outside of that. You can just put blinders on to the rest. Who cares about rankings? Who cares about this?
The reality is, it's funny that's the majority of the teams out there.
Absolutely
that's the
agree.
Majority of the teams, I said, I think our league, I couldn't make an argument that our league, is at this moment in time is, one of the most competitive. But I mean, we have 3 other wins teams in our conference have 3 other wins against top 25 opponents this year. So I know whoever represents our league in the NCAA tournament on a given night can be competitive, can win, could make a run. So, it's kind of exciting in that sense that even if we don't stack up at the moment from strength of schedule or that kind of thing, the potential is there. It's kind of a young league in general. We've had 2, I say that because we've had 2 coaching changes within our league just this year, coming into this year. We had a lot of turnover in our top talent, and we have a young crop. I'm talking not just Whitworth, but as a league we have a good crop of young talent that's up and coming. So I think we're kind of in a transition stage as a league right now. And I'm hopeful for the future of the Northwest Conference.
Yeah, no, great thought. Again, we had George Fox on the show earlier this season and just showing a little bit of the pivot in this conference as well and the success that's coming along. I don't want to say figuring out the recruiting, but understanding what may work best in the Northwest Conference to get that talent in, on top of the fact we have great talent, period, coming into Division III. And we're starting to see some other schools who don't focus on the scheduling as much start to look at the scheduling a little bit more. So, no, great. Damion, great chat. I really appreciate you diving in, because you went into a couple places I think some coaches are resistant to talk about.
Sure.
And I appreciate your perspective on it. That's why I love having you on the show. It's a matter of sometimes figuring out when's the right time to get you. I don't want to bug you too many times. We decided, despite the losses, we'd go for it this time.
Well, I appreciate that. And if anything, I hope it gives some perspective, again, probably for the majority of teams out there and what they're battling and going through, and allows a viewer to recognize the perspective. One of the awesome things I've seen in Division III is, a lot of really great coaches out there that are great educators and are concerned about helping the student athlete have a great experience and also learn those lessons. And so that's one of the wonderful things about Division III is there's a lot of people in it for the right reasons. And so maybe this is a perspective for some other people to see out there. What goes into coaching and educating in Division III.
Well said. Again, I might clip that for a future Hoopsville promo or something. We'll see. But no, it's a great point. That's what we got into this for the first place, right? It's about the student athletes. It's about their success. It doesn't necessarily mean the X's and O's and the wins and the losses and whether you're playing in March or not. We get certainly wrapped up in all of that. But at the same time, there's 375 schools or something, 350 schools that don't even get to see March, but they've got great stories too, and I appreciate you coming on and talking about the story of the Pirates at this juncture in the season. As always, sir, we give the guests the final word, though. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuned in?
Well, as always, just appreciate your guys' coverage and shedding light on the student-athlete experience. I think it's an awesome thing for all of the schools involved who get to have that spotlight. So I appreciate it. Thank you, sir, for everything that you do.
Well, thank you, sir. Good luck going to Walla Walla. And
appreciate it.
Have fun at least, and we'll look forward to catching up with you a little further down the track.
Yep, sounds good.
It is Whitworth and Damion Jablonski joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Thanks to Coach for joining us. Great conversation with Damion about his team. They're just getting off the bus probably right about now in Walla Walla, if they haven't gotten off already. Great conversation with him, and I really appreciate the time he gave us. Good insight, too. 2-game losing streaks put them in a tie there with Whitman. So this game on Tuesday is going to be a big deal. Win one of those, they got a 1-game lead. Win both of them, they got a 2-game lead, and they're in control of the Northwest Conference. But that's not how things work out, right? Take a break. When we come back, we'll head out to the Southern Athletic Conference, the SAA. We'll talk with Barry men's basketball, a team that is definitely, I guarantee, off most of your radars. Back with more after this. The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC 1927. That's NABC.com or NABC 1927 on social media.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step. but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all. It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
If I lose, I'll respond with respect.
If I win, I'll back it up with humility.
If I fail, I'll rise up with honor. It's tough for us to put it all on the line.
Don't undo my hard work with poor sportsmanship.
Respect. It's the name of the game.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
Feel like we came back and nobody heard me. So we'll try that again. Sorry. Just looked down and everything was working except it wasn't bouncing on my system. So we'll start over. We were talking about jumping back in and welcome you back to Hoopsville here on this Thursday. We're running a little bit late, but some great conversations to be had here in Division 3. Great conversation out there in Region 10. And we'll have plenty more to talk about coming up on the half marathon on Friday. We've announced that. We'll be starting late morning and going in through basically rush hour here on Hoopsville. We'll be doing about a 6-hour show, working on the guests. We'll get more of that information. So stay with us on social media. You can find us on at D3Hoopsville on almost every avenue except for Facebook. Facebook is facebook.com/Hoopsville. YouTube is at D3Hoopsville as well. For those of you streaming on YouTube, thank you. Those of you streaming on Facebook or wanted to stream on Facebook, I apologize. Just not working out today on their end. We'll have to figure that out for the marathon. We're jumping into Region 6 here on the men's side. We're talking about the ODAC, which is probably that and the UAA are the two of the most fun races to watch in Division III men's basketball this season. Hampton City continues to lead the way. They've won 13 straight. They are 10-1 in conference play, 18-1 overall. They're the number one team in all the land. They're followed by Randolph-Macon now, who has won 11 in a row. Believe it or not. They are 16-3 overall, 9-1 in conference play. They have a half-game lead in the standings on Guilford, though they have a win over Guilford. Guilford's won 4 in a row after losing to Macon. They've won 9 of their last 10. They're 18-2 overall, 8-2 in conference play. Then it's a 2-game drop, and then it's Bridgewater at 7-4, 14-6 overall. And then Washington and Lee, who's 6-4, 12-7 in conference play, followed by Shenandoah and Virginia Wesleyan, both 15-5, both 6-5 in conference play. Remember Shenandoah, who was on the show a few weeks back, led by a former Virginia Wesleyan student, athlete, and assistant coach. Roanoke is right behind those two at 5-6 in conference play. They're 12-8 overall. Then it's Lynchburg also at 5-6, 10-10, and then Ferrum. Ferrum, unfortunately, who started the season so well at 13-7 now, 4-7 in conference play. They've lost 6 of their last 7 games, all in conference action, to Hampton, Sydney, W&L, Shenandoah, Randolph-Macon, Guilford, and Bridgewater, who they lost to in overtime on Saturday. Their lone win back on January 6th against Virginia Wesleyan. They do have Randolph-Macon ahead, but for Ferrum, it then becomes Virginia Wesleyan, Randolph-Macon, Bridgewater, and Shenandoah to finish. It is a tough go for Ferrum, and I feel for Pat Corrigan's squad, who has had such a terrific start to this season and got so much attention. Granted, a bunch of games against non-Division III opponents, in fact, 5, Mid-Atlantic Christian, Virginia Lynchburg, Regent, Johnson and Wales of North Carolina, who is coming to Division III, and Carolina Christian. Change 4 of those, might have a better sense of who Ferrum is. But Ferrum also had a good start by beating Averett and Roanoke and Lynchburg and Eastern Mennonite. Sorry, they lost to Lynchburg. But they're in a tailspin right now, and I hope Ferrum can figure it out. The ODAC tournament is one of the bigger ones out there. We'll see how it is. Eastern Mennonite, by the way, dead last in the conference, along with Randolph, both 1-10 in conference play. But the ODAC, bonkers to watch. We'll dive into that conference coming up again soon. Maryville leads the Collegiate Conference of the South. They're 14-5 overall, 6-1 in conference play. Belhaven is 14-6 overall, 5-3 overall. But Berea, who's 9-10, sits in second at 4-2 in conference play. Not an exciting race, but certainly one to keep an eye on. And then gets us to the SAA. This one's not going to jump off the table to you, all of you. Barry is 11-9 overall. They're 8-1 in conference action. Birmingham Southern's 12-10, 7-3 in conference play. Then nobody else with an above 500 record. Oglethorpe's 5-4 overall in the conference, but they're 8-12. Millsaps is 5-5 overall, but they're 6-14. Center is 4-5, but they're 9-11. Swanee's 4-5, but they're 8-11. It's not the most exciting conference race, but Barry is using it to get themselves righted. They learned a lot last season. They learned a lot in the offseason. And while their beginning of the season was anything but probably fun from their perspective, Mick Hedgepath's team went out there and challenged themselves. And I think they're starting to reap the benefits from that. We talked to him earlier today about the team, the conference race, and what they have learned about, well, a lot of things. We talked to him, as we said, earlier today. Now joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline, it's the head coach of the Barry Vikings. It's Mick Hedgepath. Coach, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it and all of that. I know it's not been the most consistent season, maybe is the best way of saying it. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely, Dave. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You and I talking off air quickly before I got my wits about me. You know, this is a program that is coming off back-to-back 20-plus win seasons, 25-3 last year, 23-3 the season before that. COVID certainly a lot of attention, going 13-1 during the, let's call it the non-season that some schools played. Of course, it was a pretty good year from your perspectives, and I know you weren't there at the time, but from the program's perspective, and 19 wins prior to that. Expectations were a little bit high coming into this year, so maybe it's a little surprising for some that you're sitting at 11-9. What's the opinion on the team?
Yeah, well, first of all, this is my second season here at Barry as the head coach, and really enjoying it. It's a phenomenal place to work that really values athletics. Great location, basically halfway between Atlanta and Chattanooga. So really enjoying my time here. Inherited a really good team last year. Like you said, went 25-3, but missed out on the NCAA tournament. Still familiarizing myself with the process. I'm actually on the RAC committee for our conference, and I had my first RAC meeting this morning. But as I've learned more about Pool Cs and what all plays into that, we really increased our strength of schedule and I created the most challenging non-conference schedule that we could make. I think we've currently played 4 of the top 25 teams, and we unfortunately fell just short in a lot of those. We've had 6 single-digit losses this year. We faced a lot of adversity, to be honest with you, early in the year, just with injury and illness, and multiple guys out, some all season, some just parts of the season. So that's kind of what's gone into our pre-conference schedule and why our record is what it is. But I do think that adversity has made us stronger, and I think we're we're getting better. And I hope that, I think all of our hope and the reason for creating that schedule is to hopefully allow for us to have a realistic view of ourselves, which I think it is definitely allowed for. And also we hope that we can, play our best basketball at the right time when it matters.
Interesting you bring up the scheduling, because last year, if memory serves, first off, got all the way to the championship game in the SAA. I think it was a championship game. Lost to Sewanee, and were eliminated from the postseason despite 3 losses. I remember hearing, I did not talk to you or anybody else at Barry specifically, but I remember getting word that the committee was having conversations with everyone because the regional rankings, you were all seeing yourselves in a spot that was kind of a dangerous spot that didn't assure anything of a postseason if you couldn't win the conference. And there seemed to be some surprise, and the conversation was strength of schedule. You got to go out there and challenge yourself. So 2 things I want to applaud. First, you went and did that. You were able to adjust the schedule for this year and go out there. Listen, you played Roanoke, you played Emory, Maryville, Mary Hardin, Baylor, Trine, Calvin, Christopher Newport. Though, just among others. There are certainly some other good teams in there as well that taps you into some other conferences and stuff like that. But those are 7 significant teams in significant conferences. Obviously, that decision and that mentality was made. And then you're jumping on the rack and getting an understanding from a rack perspective. I can't tell you how many coaches, Mick, I talk to who have X perspective, jump on the rack and come back on, oh, okay, I understand this now. I grasp the concept. So hats off to you guys. And yes, you're struggling this year, but you guys are learning a lot from this, aren't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that we've learned a lot. I talked with our assistant coach, Matthew Richter, on the bus ride home last night from Millsaps. We've seen so many different styles of play. I think we've learned some things from our lineups and rotation standpoint. We've learned that we need to be a little bit more disruptive defensively to create some easy offense for us, and many different things that I think this challenging schedule has helped us in, and hopefully will pay dividends moving forward.
You should point out, Richter, a former assistant on the program, went and spent, I believe, a year at Wabash the year they went to the Final Four. If I have
correct.
Yeah. So obviously he's got.
And they played Barry first, and they played Barry the first round.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot about that. Oh, good point. I want to talk about the team in a minute, but quickly about yourself coming in from Belmont, obviously non-Division III, Division I, where you had been part of the staff there for a number of years. You had graduated from there. You talk about the halfway between Chattanooga and Atlanta. Belmont's a little further away, but you're staying in the same region. So you know the region, you know all those things. I'm curious what attracted you, though, to this Barry job and Division III, considering your experience so much is rooted in Division I.
Mm-hmm. Well, prior to working at Belmont, I spent 3 years at the University of the South in Sewanee, Tennessee, in our league. Coached there, and then I coached for 2 seasons at coached for 2 seasons at Williams prior to that. So have plenty of D3 background, and I had actually never been to Barry until I worked at Sewanee, and we came here and played a league game, and was just blown away by the campus and the facilities and so many teams having success. And additionally, I'm from a small town in northeast Alabama, and Barry's in Rome, Georgia, and northwest Georgia, so it's about an hour away from home. And my wife and I started a family. We've got baby number 2 on the way, so to get a little closer and be a head coach again, it was certainly a draw for us.
I apologize. I didn't read full enough into the bio. Normally I read every single word, but for some reason I stopped about halfway through, I now realize, and totally missed the Sewanee and Williams part. That's an error on my part, and I apologize. Is it something about Division III then that you talk about the family? You talk about being close to home. Is there something about the Division III versus the Division I that thus is just more appealing? And I realize, next year you could be gone for another school in a different division. I'm not trying to be too grandiose, but it does feel like, after this experience, you found something about Division III you like.
Well, I'm big on fit, regardless of level. Personally, I think there's pros and cons at every level. But one thing that I love about Division threes, I think it's just an extremely pure form of the game. It's just a bunch of guys who really want to be here, and we're not perfect by any stretch, but for the most part are about all of the right things. And student athlete, I feel like Division I right now with the transfer portal and NIL is becoming as transactional as it's ever been. And I love the relational aspect of Division III.
No, fair point. I'm with you there. Obviously, we're very biased, though, so we'll take that with you take what I say with a grain of sand. Let's pivot to your team. This is a group that it's interesting. It feels like a hodgepodge. You've got a lot of youth, but you got quite a bit of experience, and I think it was that experience that a lot of us latched onto, at least at the start of the season, whether we voted you into the preseason top 25 or didn't, at least considered you all. Again, with all that success coming in and a really good rooted group of experience. But from your perspective, what's this roster been like this season?
Our roster is made up of 6 returners from last year's team and 9 new players, 3 transfers and 6 freshmen. So, I think, it is unique. We have 0 sophomores on our team, so it's kind of a unique blend of returners and a lot of youth, like you said. And I think when you have that blend and 9 new players, it's going to take a little bit, right, to figure out, who we are and how we want to play and how we all fit together. Unfortunately, even with the tough schedule, we had a lot of really close losses early. And there were some growing pains for sure, combined with some injury and illness, like I mentioned. But, I knew from the beginning this is a team that had the potential. It wouldn't just happen, but had the potential to get a lot better as the season progresses, because there was so much of a, feeling each other out process, if that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. It is interesting there's no sophomores. There is that gap between the experience and the inexperience. Jumping back to last year, what also jumps out to me is a couple of the players that I think that we all kind of hooked on to. The Chase Ellis's and the Blake Campbell's are the ones that haven't had the seasons maybe we were expecting. Now, Chase Ellis, still 17.5 points a game, but he's only played in 8 games. Blake Campbell's only played in 14 of your 20 games, so he's averaging 20.4. We see it, but they've also missed a lot of games. As an outsider reading in, it goes, okay, we've had some injury issues that have also been pretty impactful to how you guys have had your season play out.
Yeah. I mean, Blake, our very first game, Chase was injured. Blake had a really big game. I believe he had 37 points or something along those lines in a game at Belhaven, but had a wrist injury. So he was out for a long time with that. And then Chase has been out, with some injury, illness stuff going on, since Christmas. So he's only played in 1 conference game. Those 2 guys, our 2 returning leading scorers, only played in 2 games together this season in our trip down to Texas, where we played Mary Hardin Baylor and Concordia. So a lot of guys have had to step up and play and get a lot of experience that, I think even though it may be thrown into the fire a little bit, I think it has been good for us long term.
I was going to say, you haven't played all that many in every game this season, but you have played a lot of players in significant amount of time this season. Yeah, it's a little bit of a catch-22. It's a little bit of a learning curve. It's all of those things, and not to look past this season, the baptism by fire could be really beneficial in the seasons ahead, because these guys are getting the experience now that maybe you didn't expect them to get so soon, and now they're more prepared for next year.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the hope, and it may be repeat again next year, because we are going to lose an awful lot, with 5 seniors. Something that depends on, of course, this is the last class with a possible COVID option, but we will lose in some ways more than we did last year to this year, so it could be a repeat a little bit, but absolutely, I do think this experience will be really beneficial for us.
So we talked about the losses and coming into the start of the year, your last game that we'll talk about on this kind of level is the Christopher Newport game on January 1st. That brought to a close, by the way. 3 games in 4 days where you played Trine on the 29th, Calvin on the 30th, Christopher Newport on the 1st, Indiana, Virginia, we should point out, you played at Christopher Newport, so quite a bit of travel. When you finished that run, quick math tells me you were sitting at, what, 4-9?
3-9.
3-9.
Yeah.
Okay.
3-9.
Easy to write you guys all off. Say, forget it. We're all done. We would have missed the 8-game winning streak that has followed since then. That's how you're now sitting at 11-9. That's how you're 8-1 in conference play. Rhodes, Hendricks, Center, Sewanee, Birmingham Southern twice. We'll talk about that in a minute. Millsap twice. We'll talk about that in a minute as well. And those 4, Millsaps and Birmingham Southern, are happening in the last 2 weekends. You've learned a lot, and it feels like you've figured it out and now starting to hit your stride. You may not be 100% with everybody back just yet, but wow, 8-game winning streak, that's nothing to just kind of brush off.
Yeah, I mean, you never figure it out, right? But I do think, we are starting to hit a stride, hopefully. I think, we talked about some things that we've learned in terms of defensive philosophy and, offensively, as much as I like to slow it down and manipulate and play call and counteract defenses, I've kind of discovered this group's a little better, just giving them some concepts and have a little more freedom within our structure. So I've definitely learned as a coach. I think they've learned with each other, and then we've just, to be honest, we've defended better and we've shot the ball better. I think we're shooting it 41% from 3 in conference play, which certainly doesn't hurt.
No, that's tremendous. That's a great number. Overall, we should point out, by the way, you're shooting, 49% from the floor, 36% from deep, but as you said, in conference play, it's better than that, and 74% from the free throw line, outscoring your opponents by more than 7 points and out-rebounding them as well. I'm going to quickly dive into the NCAA numbers while we continue our conversation here, but 8-game winning streak, the toughest part was what you just went through. You had the Birmingham Millsaps double header, kind of like the UAA, play one on one weekend, one on the other weekend, on back-to-back weekends. That's not enjoyable, but it's got to be really key to you that you got through that 4-0, because that's the easiest spot to have a lapse and pick up a loss or two.
Yeah, I mean, those are 2 really good teams, hard places to play, 2 teams with a lot of size and a lot of physicality. And, for us to be able to pull those out is certainly meaningful as we're in the midst of a conference race here. Going back to our previous point about scoring and efficiency, we've certainly needed it. We were giving up 81 points a game in the non-conference. So, improving defensively has been a huge point of emphasis for us, and hopefully we can continue to guard a little better.
Your field goal percentage for the NCAA is almost the top 25% in the division. So obviously that is a huge benefit. All right, so moving forward, you've got Rhodes and Hendricks on the road, and then you finish everything at home, which will obviously be helpful. Rhodes and Hendricks, a tough trip, certainly, then Center, Sewanee, Oglethorpe to wrap things up. I know it's game by game. I know you're on an 8-game winning streak, and for your intensive purposes and the team's understanding, it's a 1-game winning streak. But what is the message to the team? How are you preparing for the last road series to hopefully lock up as well, by the way, this conference coming, through you guys essentially as a top seed?
It's staying consistent all year. Win or lose, we have the same approach to evaluating each game, and what we did well and what we can do better. Rhodes specifically, I mean, we won at home by 6. That was a back and forth battle. We were tied with Hendricks at halftime. They have some really talented players who can get going from 3 and on down the line with the rest of the teams in our league. So I mean that's the message is growth mentality, and we're going to play how we practice. So we try to practice. It's fine balance because we want to be fresh, but we're trying to make practices as competitive and as game-like as possible.
And try and stay at home, because if you can stay number one, you'll get to host the SAA tournament and not have to worry about a grueling road trip, and hopefully get it done to get to the NCAAs.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We are fortunate to have a nice facility, and would love to stay here as many times as we can and have as many games here as we can. And that's a unique format to our conference tournament. It's over 2 weekends. Top 4 seeds host the first weekend, and then the highest remaining seed hosts the semifinals and the finals the next weekend. So, that's certainly the goal, is to have some home postseason games.
I am more and more starting to like that formatting when it comes to conversations about travel and the grind of a tournament. If you want to have a larger tournament, all right, take the previous weekend and just consolidate your schedule a smidge to compensate.
Mm-hmm.
Again, could come through you guys. We talked to the Whitworth coach prior to you. I'm kind of curious. Is it almost compared to last year, where you were not in a regional rankings situation and maybe frustrated by it, thinking you could maybe have an at-large as a backup, it not happening? Is it almost a relief maybe, or is it at least less of a burden that all you have to focus on here is the conference? That's it. Yes, it's been a horrible season in terms of you didn't get the wins you maybe have wanted, and you're just above 500 at 11-9, but it almost to some degree makes things a little bit simpler.
Yeah, I don't know if relief is the right term.
I probably used the wrong word there.
But no, that's okay. There was certainly some confusion amongst players and fans last year. I mean, we ended up 2-1 against regionally ranked opponents, and had big wins on the road against teams who received pool Cs and didn't have any bad losses, undefeated in the regular season in the league and all that. I would say I think this year, the cliche term that adversity makes you stronger, I think there's some truth to that. I think that, when you go through all of those challenging and trying times, I think that does give you a little bit of an edge and a little bit of a chip on your shoulder that maybe we didn't have. And last year, if anyone, myself included, was frustrated or worried about, regional rankings and that's all out of your control anyway. So I think this year it's just hopefully we're a little more concerned about the right things that we can control, and hopefully that'll be a good formula.
I appreciate the insight. Sorry, didn't hit the mute button on my mic. Appreciate the insight and the perspective on this, Mick, and getting your understanding for us of Barry as a program. Again, I know it may not have started off as tremendously as maybe everybody expected, including some of us maybe from the outside looking in. But as I said to you in the off-air part, you guys intrigued me all season as I was watching. And when you got to the top of the conference at 8-1, I thought to myself, this is a conversation that's got to be had. This team is rolling right now, and I want to learn more about the Vikings. So I appreciate the understanding and the insight, and I wish you all the luck moving forward. As a tradition on this show, we always give the guest the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
I would just say anyone local would love to have you to a game. Continuing to try to grow our fan base and those who support us, and just thank you so much, Dave, for having us and thinking of us. And we appreciate all that you do for the game.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time. It makes our job easier. Good luck the rest of the campaign. Look forward to maybe seeing you come March and seeing your names pop up on the bracket. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of the season. We'll talk soon.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Mick Hedgepeth joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Sorry for the delay there. I got distracted responding to somebody on the social medias. Great conversation with Mick about his Barry squad. Listen, You got to wonder how much there's a few things in play in the SAA. I number last year, Barry, really good resume, 25-3, missed out on the NCAA tournament because their strength of schedule wasn't so great. If we hadn't as many upsets, would they have been in the conversation? I don't know. There is speculation that because they had a below 500 SOS, that they wouldn't have even gotten a sniff of being in the NCAA tournament, let alone regionally ranked. That gets me back to a whole other problem I have with how we evaluate strength of schedule on the men's side, and certainly one we can discuss further. At some point, it's got to be a bell curve. At some point, a low enough SOS just has to be dismissed. Not fully. You can't keep going down that rabbit hole. Just as I don't think you can go that on an SOS that gets higher and higher. At some point, win-losses have to have a stronger conversation. They had like 2 or 3 wins against regionally ranked opponents last year and 1 loss. It's not like their SOS was poor because they didn't play anybody out of conference. I don't know what the answer is there, and we'll certainly discuss it plenty in the weeks ahead on all those dynamics. But they went out there and they've scheduled pretty tough, and yeah, they're suffering for it because they don't have the wins and losses this year that maybe they hoped they'd have. But injuries have played a critical role there, and that's what a lot of teams have faced. Win the conference and they're in, and you heard Mick kind of say, "Listen, we only have to focus on one thing here. It's the schedule." It's a conference. It's the AQ. And maybe that'll be better for him. But a great conversation with him and all of our guests today. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show, talk about those new top 25s are out, and talk about some other things as well. You listen to Hoopsville. We wrap things up from the Hoopsville studios after this.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that. A lot more.
Sure, the game is important. But as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. And in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
Responsibility is being accountable for your words and actions, first and foremost. It also is an obligation to be a positive influence in the communities around you. Being in a D3 program, you're going to have lots of different opportunities. You're not just an athlete, you're also involved in student life. Your academics are extremely important. We give a lot of our student athletes responsibilities right from the start by giving them leadership opportunities, by having them engage in the community, be a positive influence. That's being a responsible person.
There are over 480,000 college athletes. Only 2% would go pro. That means over 470,000 will not get a shoe contract. No autographs. No private jets. No fan clubs. No Hall of Fame inductions. Instead, they will walk away with something much more valuable.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
I did receive a non-athletic.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, as we wrap up tonight's show. Thanks for tuning in. Great conversations with Kean, St. Joseph, Whitworth, and Barry basketball programs. New top 25s are out. Didn't really dive into that at the beginning of the show since we were a little bit tight on time. But on the men's side, interesting twist here. So Hampden-Sydney had 24 first-place votes last week, and Trinity, Connecticut, who was in fifth at the time, had 1. Hampden-Sydney now has 23. Trine has picked up a first-place vote, and Trinity, Connecticut holds on to theirs. Hampden-Sydney stays in first place. They went from 623 total votes to 624. What does that all mean to you folks? That basically means somebody took them out of their top 25 while a couple other voters moved them up who weren't voting them number one. Actually, that means one voter moved them up. So they had 24 first-place votes, and they gained a point, which means the voter who knocked them down probably put them in second, and whoever was not voting them number one moved them up. I don't have the breakdown now. That's just a fascinating thing on my part. Case Western Reserve fell from 2nd to 11. Calvin fell from 14th to 12th. Both went 0-2 this week. Case Western Reserve losing to Chicago and WashU. Guess what? They face them next weekend. So there will be some very short memories coming up in UAA. Calvin lost to, who was it? Hope and Trine, was it not? I had my voting information in front of me, and now I can't find it. Apologies. And I don't think I've got, no, I do have it. Hang on. Calvin, yeah, they lost to Trine and Hope. They lost to Trine by 3 on last Thursday, and then lost on last Wednesday, then lost on Saturday at Hope. And it wasn't close. It was 59-42, which was really staggering. So those two lost, went to 11th to 12th. Trine moved from 7th to 3rd. They moved ahead of Trinity, Connecticut, Oswego into that spot. And the win over Calvin certainly intrigued somebody. Not me. Oswego's now 5th. Guilford moved from 8 to 6. Kean moved from 9 to 7. Randolph-Macon now in the top 10 after being at top 10 last week. Trinity, Texas is up into the top 10 from 12th. NYU is now number 10 from 13th. We mentioned 11 and 12 are Case Western and Calvin. Cal Lou has moved up a spot to 13. Platteville fell 3 spots to 14. Platteville had a mixed week. Remember, they lost to Stevens Point. When we talked to them on Thursday, they had lost on Wednesday night. Catholic has moved into 15th. Mount Union moved up to 16th from 18th. WashU jumped 5 spots thanks to their weekend, beating Carnegie Mellon and Case Western. They're now in 17th from 22. Johns Hopkins is leapfrogged from 24th to 18th. I am not quite voting for Johns Hopkins, even though they are on a tear here. They lost 4 of their opening 6 and have not lost since. But guess who they play on Wednesday? Gettysburg. I had mentioned that Gettysburg had a bonkers of a week ahead of them. They are now a game out of first place because they lost to Franklin and Marshall. F&M and Hopkins are both 11-1. Gettysburg is 10-2, and Swarthmore stays 2 games back of that trio in 4th place in the conference. Gettysburg, Hopkins, men and women. Huge ramifications on Wednesday. That is a doubleheader to tune into. I've been trying to start a games of the midweek and games of the weekend, but I haven't had time to really do it. We're going to work on it maybe for the end of the season, but something for the offseason to work on and have for the future. But if I had a midweek's game, they'd be both Gettysburg and Hopkins, I think. Granted, I'll be at Gettysburg for those games myself, broadcasting them, but they are the first place, Johns Hopkins, against second place, or technically third place, Gettysburg, in both men and women's basketball. So huge games at the Bream Gymnasium in Gettysburg this weekend. So we'll look forward to seeing that. Widener, by the way, fell from 15th to 19th, picking up a loss themselves this week. They lost to York, who has suddenly caught fire. York team, I think, that we kind of expected to see all season, has won their last 5 after losing 3 in a row, and those 5 include wins over Hood and Widener. Whether that continues, I don't know. Matt Under's squad is 12-7, 5-3 overall. They had lost 3 in a row at the start of the new year, but we'll see how that plays out. But Widener And the reason I was delayed, I was talking on the previous segment, I was talking to a voter who was wondering why Hood wasn't getting more attention. And certainly I thought about voting for Hood. Widener and Hood have their rematch coming up here on February 3rd. That is circled, I'm sure, by many voters. Loris, by the way, into number 20th out of 20 from the 25th spot, as the ARC, we'll talk about in a minute, continues to just destroy themselves. Tufts is back in the top 25 at 21. DeSales is into the top 25 at 22. Nebraska Wesleyan fell from 19 to 23. Emory fell from 20 to 24. And Christopher Newport fell from 17 to 25, losing to Santa Cruz. And they're only 4 votes up on Coe, who fell out of the top 25. Whitewater also fell out of the top 25 after going 0-2 this week themselves. Quickly about the ARC, which I mentioned. Coe is 17-3 overall. Coerce is 15-2. Nebraska Wesleyan 17-3. Central's 14-6. Dubuque's 15-4. And all of them are within 2.5 games of first place all within 2.5 games of each other. Coe is 9-2 in the conference. Loris is 7-2. Nebraska Wesleyan and Central are 8-3, and Dubuque is 6-4. The ARC has become a race I don't think any of us expected, and it's darn good and it's darn fun. Top 3 races in Division III right now in men's basketball, off the top of my head, I'd say in no particular order: UAA, ODAC, and ARC. And there's other great races going on. Don't get me wrong. Those 3 have absolutely got my attention. On the women's side, top 25 came out. Really nothing to talk about. Gettysburg into the top 25 at 25, replacing Whitman, who lost once again to Willamette this week. The top 7 did not change. Emory fell from 9 to 12 after their UAA action this weekend, which included losing to NYU 74-41. That's an example where I think the voters know that they're going to lose because NYU is the first place team. But maybe it was the destruction by 33 that caused voters to lose a little bit of faith. Hopkins moves up to number 9. Bowdoin goes from 12 to 10. Wartburg 13 to 11. Scranton goes from 15 to 13. I saw Scranton play my alma mater on Saturday. Sorry, can't take anything from the Saturday game and extrapolate out how good Scranton is or is not. Scranton is deep. That is for sure. They've got a lot of talent on them. Are they a top 10 team? I can't make that evaluation based on the game I saw. Illinois Wesleyan fell from 11 to 14. Milliken moved up 1. Hardin-Simmons moved up 3. DeSales moved up 3. Mary Hardin-Baylor fell 4 because Mary Hardin-Baylor unfortunately lost a game. I think they've lost a player due to injury. But they lost to East Texas Baptist, barely got past Laterno. Their top scorer is out with an injury right now. I think I've heard it's not too bad. Did Riley Zayas tweet something earlier today, I think, about the injury? And I think they're just taking it easy. Either that or we were talking about it behind the scenes. And they're just taking it easy with the injury. But Mary Hardin-Baylor did lose. Loris up 2 spots. Carroll up 4 with a tie with... No, that can't be right. Smith is 21. It says 20 on our system, but that's a mistake. Smith is 20, falling 3 spots. Remember that NUMAC is now a 5-team race, all tied at 4-1. W&L is up a spot. Oshkosh fell 5 spots. Bates moved up a spot in Gettysburg, as we mentioned. By the way, on the men's side, 25 teams are receiving votes who are not in the top 25. There are 50 teams receiving votes in the top 25 on the men's side. There are a couple that I'm a little surprised are getting votes. I'm a little surprised St. Vincent is, honestly. I had been voting for Clark. I couldn't after this week. But there's a lot to consider. There's a lot of good teams out there on the men's side for sure. And there's great teams on the women's. So top 25 out, certainly some good results there. Keep an eye on all that because it'll be worth watching the rest of the season because it's going to be some great basketball the rest of the season. So a couple of news and notes, a couple of things to keep on your radar. First, I know we don't talk about this often, but the bid cycle is up now for, let's see, we're in our penultimate year of championships in terms of their locations. So this year and then next year will be the final year. Is that correct? Or are we in the third to last? And next year's the penultimate. Yeah, next year's the penultimate. I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun. So third to last year of this, year 2 of the current 4-year cycle. Bids then are put together. They are released in the penultimate year. so that basically everybody who wins a bid gets basically one, maybe two championships to see if they're a new bidder or a new winner to get ready for championships before they are hosting them themselves. As a result, February 7th is the deadline for anybody who wants to bid on any Division III championship hosting opportunities in any of the sports that do that, pretty much all of them. There are some joint championships, obviously, that make an exception to that. But February 7th is that deadline, and then we will not know until October 2nd of this year who those winners are. I do know that there are bidders in both sports, men's and women's basketball, that are out there who are looking to put bids in, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that all turns out, because I always find this process a little bit on the interesting side, and I think it's on the side that's really most interesting is, remember, Salem lost football and men's basketball, and they were pretty ticked off about it, to be honest, the way it was done and the way it was handled, and I don't blame them. I was told at that point that they were done hosting those two sports. Football has had a change of heart, because I think football realized they were forced into a decision that maybe wasn't right for the sport, is how I would put it. And yes, I do mean they were forced into that decision. Salem has been asked to bid again after hosting the 50th championship this past year, or this past December. And so we know Salem will be in the mix for the Stag Bowl once again, which very likely could be in early January now as well, or very late December. I don't think Salem's getting back in the mix in men's basketball. I'm saying that having talked to absolutely no one about the topic. But I get the sense that Fort Wayne is not the only one out there who's going to put in a serious bid. Fort Wayne is a complex. The Coliseum, I think, does a tremendous job with the event. The Coliseum feels a little large for the event, but that's neither here nor there in the grand scheme of things. It's not too big. It's just large. But I do get the sense there's some other bidders out there who are interested in going after men's basketball. There's other bidders for women's basketball. Salem will be hosting, let's see, it's Columbus this year, and then it's 2 years in Salem, I believe. I thought it was decent in Pittsburgh. Not sure if that group is interested in doing it again. So we'll see how that all plays out. Again, deadline for that is February 7th. So it's coming up soon to get bids in. And then we'll start to maybe get some hints on who may have put in bids and the like. And then these championship committees now for their respective sports will make decisions that will be decided. I'm not sure if they make the ultimate decision before October 2nd, or the new committees, the new people that come on will have a say as well. But nonetheless, October 2nd. We also have, obviously, regional rankings right around the corner, which is why the half marathon's coming up on Friday. Here's the simple part of this. The first regional rankings will come out for both genders on February 6th. That is a Tuesday. Remember last year, men moved to Tuesday, women stayed on Wednesday. That has all been changed. It's both going to be Tuesday. Then the second regional rankings will come out the 13th, and on the 15th of February, we will have the Top 16s show, which will feature the who, if the brackets were to be decided right then, likely would be hosting games the opening weekend and in position to host the sectional weekend. The third regional rankings will be Tuesday the 20th. And selection and that all process, the season officially ends on the 25th, and brackets will be announced the 26th, with the tournament starting March 1 and 2. So there you go. I know a lot of people have asked about donating to our work. We are looking for advertisers and sponsors. Big shows coming up that you can sponsor, individual shows or the rest of the season. Please contact me. If you'd like to donate, we'll get more information ahead of the half marathon coming up on Friday. But you can also contact me as well. That includes if you want to send jerseys and stuff. Seriously, we get questions about this, so I say it now. So if you want to get a jersey on the wall, or if you want to send some memorabilia or some knickknacks or whatever, we have lots of things to decorate. Feel free to send those along too. And I think that's it. I know there's been some other things going on in Division III. This is about the point where I certainly start focusing on those raw numbers a little bit more and such. And I'm sure there's other things that are coming up. There's just so much to talk about. We don't have time. That's why the marathon show coming up on Friday, is so helpful because it kind of gives us a good reset, gives us a chance to talk to teams we haven't had a chance to really talk to, but more importantly, gives us a chance to talk about some topics we haven't had a chance to. Remember, you can always listen to the show on our podcast. You can always go back and watch shows on demand. We encourage you to do that. Go check out segments maybe you missed. Go re-listen to some segments. I thought the conversation we had with Jim Haney about men's officiating in Division III was very insightful, very interesting. I learned certainly a lot from our conversation with Jim. We'll have Nani Sodders on at some point, I hope, to talk about women's basketball officiating as well. Don't forget, also coming up, we'll have the state of Division III. I don't think we'll have it on Friday's show. I got to coordinate with Louise McCleary at the NCAA. She's the vice president for Division III, but we're also in the works on something else, and that might just be a one-off show that we'll put together. Other scheduling notes, other than this Thursday, a reminder that really much, so this Thursday is being moved to Friday for the marathon. The following Thursdays, except for the 15th, will all be at 1 p.m. due to schedule conflicts on my part. The Top 16 show on that Thursday, the 15th, will be at 7 o'clock, and that will be live. We are at 7 o'clock every single Monday, except on the what day is it? Oh, sorry, my calendar just moved on me. The 19th of February. We are likely going to be pushing that show to an afternoon show on the 20th. We'll get back to you on that. That is the start of conference championships week for most schools and most conferences. We're just out of town that weekend for work. And so it is hard to get back in time from the West Coast to get a show on the air at 7 o'clock on that Monday. Last year we did a red eye to make that work. And I'll be honest with you, not the greatest idea. So if we do push it, it'll be pushed to Tuesday afternoon, the 20th. But we'll be updating you down the road on that. And with that, I think it's time to sign off this lovely show. Absolutely awesome conversations with our guests today, and I really, really appreciate their time. From Kean, of course, Mandy King, terrific conversation with her. Wendy Davis from St. Joe's, just a thrill. By the way, she got back into coaching while taking a phone call on the roof, putting a new roof on a house. Like, what? Wendy Davis's story is also. Damion Jablonski, great conversation about the Pirates of Whitworth. And Mick Hedgepath, I thought, was a tremendous insight on the Vikings of Barry. Really liked their conversation. By the way, really appreciate all the sports information staffs who helped us out as well, putting those segments together. With that, we sign off. We'll see you Friday. Aim for 11 o'clock Eastern time. Could start a little bit earlier if we get enough guests and we have to find some space. But we'll be sending out more information on our social media channels, Instagram, Threads, Twitter/X at D3 Hoopsville, Facebook, just Hoopsville. We'll simulcast best we can if Facebook allows us, but certainly on our YouTube channel. But we're also always broadcasting on our Team One Sports app on Android TV, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, Roku, or you can log on and just watch it on your phone as well. And with that, I bid you adieu. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. It is great time. Final month of the season. A month from now, we'll be talking about who's in and out of the NCAA tournament and what matchups we've got ahead of us in our NCAA brackets. It is a fun time of year. Lot to talk about, lot to go through. Can't wait to see how it plays out. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the Hoopsville Studios. You enjoy the rest of the week. Go get a game in somewhere, and we'll look forward to catching up with you on Friday.